All right, I'm activating
Sometimes
the tubes.
that's not enough.
Yes. Yeah. So this is pretty fun. So for those of you that are just tuning into the live stream today, Wes is remote at home, and
Hey.
I am remote at home. We're routing through the JB1 studio where we're talking to JJ on Mumble, and you guys through the live stream. It's pretty high tech, and it's all kind of this is a test episode to test the upcoming Texas road trip.
So if it goes horribly awry, well, you won't be surprised anyway.
The only thing that might happen, it might be about to happen right now actually, is I'm near a bus barn, like a school bus barn. And so it is possible that all of the buses are about to hit the road to go pick up the kids. Right?
Diesels?
Yeah, big old loud diesels. And this isn't going to be my permanent spot. So this is just a test spot. It's like this isn't where I'll be doing the shows from because I'll be on the road. But, I guess it is a test of what it's going to be like with some background noise. My own. All right, the tubes is up. Looks like the tubes is up.
Sweet deal. I'm going to go collect some things. I'll be right back.
Alrighty, sir. Alrighty, good luck to you. Peace and long life and prosperity to you and yours. And hopefully safe travels, as they say. So this is going to be episode 250, one of the rares where both of us are out of studio. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to push a few buttons and get us going. Feel free to join us in the Mumble Room and the IRC, irc.geekshed.net, /Jupiter Broadcasting. Mumble Room is open. You can look for our guide. Come hang out and talk about Linux. We're going to be talking about laptops here and much, much more. Lots of picks, too. Mr. Popey.
Hello.
Oh, you're a little loud too. I wonder if it's just my audio. Maybe it's not you guys.
It's me. It's me.
Where's my Spotify? Spotify is playing. Oh yeah, right. No, it's not Spotify. So I'm like, why don't I see Spotify now? I'm not using Spotify. Oh yeah, now say something again. Let me hear how you sound now.
Well, I've fucked about with my end as well.
There you go, much better. Yeah, you sound great.
One.
Yeah, I was starting to worry.
Hello, how's it going, you guys?
That's distorted. Now, what's going on? What's going on here? Why is this so badly distorted? What's going on there? You got to look at your input level.
My input level's like down near 25%, I think.
Well, you could go through the Mumble Audio Wizard and listen to your echo back because it sounds pretty bad. Got to get that clipping. Oh, that's all right, TechMav. That's all right. We'll forgive you. New piercings. Wow. Yeah. Good luck with that. Yikes. How are you doing, Poby?
I'm good. I just had a interesting conversation with a friend of mine. Well, friend of a friend who they've just had their house broken into and her laptop was stolen. Yeah, so she was talking. She's got a Mac, and I was talking her through how to lock the laptop via a phone, remotely in case it comes online somewhere and it can be, remotely locked. Because she's
interesting. We're going to be talking about new laptops today. You just clipped a little bit there. You might have to come down one more notch.
Roger.
Could be on my end because I'm on a remote connection, so I'm not 100% positive on my setup, but I think it was a little clipping. Yeah, so I don't know. I thought we'd talk some laptops because I'm in the shopping mood right now. Yeah, I figured it was your year. Yeah, that sounds good. It's a little low, but it's good. It's a little low.
You're never fucking happy, are you, Chris?
No, I'm really not. It's true. It's a problem. Hello, Wimpy. Good to see you.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. I'm relaxing in the RV right now, sitting back and chilling, getting ready to do a show.
Oh, get you.
Yeah, I'm fancy. What
How
can I
is
say?
this, Chris? Is this all right for your audiophile ears?
Yeah, yeah. Now, how does Wimpy sound to you, Popey?
No, hang on a minute.
Muffled?
You've gone down an octave. What's going on here?
Now, I've gone down. No,
That's strange.
no,
Yeah, you have.
no,
So have you.
no.
I don't think
really?
so.
What the hell?
And you sound fine.
Now, Wimpy,
Sound
are
like
you
Barry White?
really? Well, hello there. Hello,
We are
hello,
especially
hello.
suave today.
So I think maybe you guys might not be clipping as much as I think you are. It might be something on the send to me. So it could be that.
Popey,
'Cause Wimpy
how
sounds
do
like
I
he's
sound?
clipping. Wimpy sounds like he's clipping to me too a little bit, but not as bad
Really?
as JJ. But
My mic settings are allegedly low for the Ubuntu podcast this week,
Wimpy
so
sounds
if
exactly the same to me as
yeah,
it
okay,
is.
all right. So then it could just be my remote sound.
Yeah, for some
Yeah.
reason, Popey
Chris,
sounds
that must be
quieter
me.
on my
Yeah,
end.
you might have to come up again a little bit, Popey. Sorry about all the futzing. Yeah.
I'm going to
yeah.
reconnect because you sound hilarious. Like the opposite of having inhaled a balloon.
You mean
Let's just keep that.
You mean like with hydrogen's
We should just keep
Fluoride or
it. I like
something?
sounding like that. I'll do the whole show like that. Hello.
Oh wait, what were you?
Linux
were you playing with me?
No, I didn't. I haven't changed
Oh,
anything.
well, stop now.
Oh, good.
Bizarre.
Well, then what's there to worry about, right? What's there to worry about?
Who cares?
By the way, Chris, happy election day. Well, primary day.
Thank you. You know, I always get very excited about those things.
Well, is it in your area, or do you have to submit a absentee ballot, or what?
Yeah, we do everything by ballot. Yeah.
I saw Bernie. I saw a tweet from Bernie that said he was going to stand again for the Senate. When I first started reading it, and he said he's going to stand again, I was like, yes. Oh, for the Senate. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's step one. He's getting up there in age, though.
Well, he has guaranteed that he's going to run again, but I don't know if he's got the chops or the. I think he has the charisma. He has the charisma. I'm not sure if he would be an effective leader.
Oh gosh, we just got into politics. Oh god.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let's change.
Oh god. It's not Wednesday yet. Let's see. Well, Wes had delicious Thai food for lunch in frickin' downtown Seattle, so we can all be a little egreged by that if we want.
By the way, I think I have a good topic for the pre-show.
Okay.
It's a reboot of a show that's been on Nickelodeon for a long time. It hasn't been back in 20 years. And the person who originally hosted is now the mayor of this of the show.
Mayor of a show? What the what world are we living
What's
in right
happening?
now? Where am I?
Well,
Yep,
officially
J-Bot
the
is
mayor.
back.
Yeah.
J-Bot be back. Yeah, J-Bot missed you guys, so he decided to come back. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so guess what I'm talking about.
I have literally no idea what planet you're on.
This was an American show that's gonna get a reboot.
So now, does JJ clip for you guys at all? Because, see, Popey and Wimpy are not clipping, but JJ is clipping for me. But it could, again, just be this interface.
Wimpy, say some nice words.
I am creating fun projects and dope wisdom for Linux enthusiasts of all levels.
I knew you were going to say that.
So how did he sound to you, Popey?
The very first syllable clipped, but after that it was fine.
Okay. And how does JJ sound to you?
JJ, speak.
1,000. I'm doing all right. I'm just talking about a topic
that's
for
good.
the pre-show.
Okay. How's that sound?
Just a bit of echo, but yes.
Okay, yeah, all right, yeah, the echo we know about, but okay. All right, yeah. Wimpy clips a bit for me, too, but it's hard to really say from this. Funny enough, it seems
Well, I
like
can
when we're
turn
doing...
the gain down on the mic if that's going to help.
Yeah, maybe a bit. Maybe just because Joe can always bring you up again. And
There you go.
The
I've
thing
turned
is-
it down a little bit. How's that?
Thank you, sir.
Joe.
Yeah. The thing is like Mumble's sort of the trickiest thing to get working, just because it's kind of, I don't know, it's always the tricky one.
And I also voiced in Discord, which is which is sort of like inconsistent with audio levels.
It
Okay,
also
so
doesn't help
stand
that it automatically does stuff.
by there, Mumble. Hey there, Wes. Are you ready on your end to record? You ready
Yes,
to
I
hit
am.
record? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to suggest that you and I record at the same time, like we did, you know. So I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hit record, and then I'm going to do another countdown because I'm going to also record in the studio. So arm yourself. You got your project saved over there and all that goodness?
Saved just now.
All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, record.
Wait, let's do that one more time. It
Okay.
clicked slightly off the button.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I know what you mean. All right, so here, I'm going to delete this too. Before we go, I'm going to turn something off. All right, so we'll record. Let's hit record on 4. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is record. All right, so are you recording on your end now?
Got it.
Okay. So then let's start recording on the studio end too, so we have that backup, and we have a local capture of the mumble room, which will sound all silky beautiful. So I'm going to count to 4, and then when everybody in the mumble room and Wes, will you say 4 when I get there? So I'll do a 1, 2, 3, and then you say 4, and it goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
Okay. All right. Good job, guys. And then Wes, let's do also our moment of no moving, no breathing,
Okay.
no gating, all those things.
Oh, yeah, let me turn my gate off.
All those things.
Just quiet for Joe. Everyone be quiet. Wimpy, be quiet.
Yeah,
Quiet.
this is where we don't talk.
Wimpy, stop it.
Okay. All right. Okay. No breathing, no moving. In 3, 2. Well, as Joe says, that's going to be a real ball ache to edit because those birds are not consistent and they're not shutting the fuck up. So sorry about that, Joe.
Yeah, I think there was some plane far in the background of mine. Hopefully it wasn't audible.
I feel bad for being a bad person, but thank you, everybody. All right, where did I dropped my mouse. I dropped my mouse, and then I'm ready to start.
Get it together, man.
Where is my mouse? All right, I found it. Okay, Mumble Room. Are you guys ready to go over there on your end? Boy, this is a real all over the world episode. This is exciting. Don't know how the soundboard's going to sound to you or to the Mumble Room, but hopefully in the recording it comes out okay, because this shit's complicated, as they say. All right, here we go. It is the Unplugged program chat room. Please bang, suggest as we go along. We need them. We need your suggestions. Wait, what? Come on. There you go. Good job, Mixer. I'm remotely controlling the Mixer through a VPN right now, and so the changes that I make here on my little Dell XPS, which has a touchscreen, so that's awesome too. The changes I make here are actually physically, changing the sliders and stuff on the studio on the Mixer in the studio. It's pretty geeky.
Spooky
All right.
action at a distance.
Are you ready over there, Mr. Payne?
I sure am. Oh, you got
All right,
the ding. Beautiful.
Hopefully it's not too loud for you. I think the way I'm going to have to do this is Joe may have to just change the levels in post because I don't really have sliders that are going to be easy for me to control. All right, here we go. It's Unplugged, and it begins in 3, in 2. This is Linux Unplugged, episode 250 for May 22nd, 2018. Welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show that definitely has the new laptop bug. My name is Chris.
My name is Wes.
Hello, Wes. This is an exciting episode, not only because you and I are going to finally talk about something that's been on our minds for weeks, but we have a ton of community news to get into, as well as a few app picks for you, and maybe even the ultimate laptop elimination. 2018 is a new year, and there's new hardware, so we have to go through and figure out some of this stuff. I got to tell you, Wes, I am very excited about today's episode because I've also cracked it. I finally
100%.
solved
You've
it.
got it.
The Evernote problem is no more. I've really got a good note solution. I talked about it a little bit recently. I'm going to give you my kind of closing review on a system I've built recently that's built around Nextcloud 13. Q Ohm Notes.
Oh.
An app on my phone and an app in Nextcloud. brings it all together for markdown synchronized notes across my phone, my desktop, and the web, and none of it's using third-party services. Oh!
You've got to
tell you about that.
I want to know. I want to know.
I know. And Mycroft's got a solution for their woes, and you'll never believe it. It's the blockchain.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. The blockchain solving everybody's problems. Plus, GNOME is doing some performance hacking, and there's much other items to get into. Really, it's just kind of a ridiculous spoils of treats this episode. So let's not go any further without bringing in our Mumble Room. Time appropriate greetings, Mumble Room.
What's
Good
up?
evening.
Greetings. Beans.
What are beans? We will find out soon. Perhaps we can answer that. But there are other bots that we're going to start with this week. This is the TennyBot, and it is a really cool Ubuntu-powered robot. You might call it the autonomous bot, or the autonomous ball boy, I should say. The TennyBot is making big waves. It's the world's first robotic tennis ball collector. The autonomous ball boy is raising all kinds of stink in the tennis community because it saves a lot of time. And as you would expect, it is a Kickstarter, and they have a video. Here's a clip of it.
Players and coaches everywhere know the frustration and tediousness that goes into collecting balls during a practice session. And this is why we invented TennyBot. TennyBot is the world's first robotic ball collector. TennyBot perfectly integrates computer vision and artificial intelligence to detect tennis balls on the court and collect them for players. You can let TennyBot work autonomously using the station that easily attaches to the net post, or use TennyBot's app to customize where in the court the device will clear. TennyBot easily syncs to your phone and even your Apple Watch to make activation quick and seamless. The app also keeps track of how many balls are collected during a session and how often you practice. So feel free to brag to your friends about how you're stepping up your game while never having to pick up another tennis ball.
Because obviously you would. So the TennyBot, I guess. I like TennisBot, or I just like Automated Ball Boy, is an Ubuntu-powered robot that's got an actually pretty sophisticated array of antennas and sensors and cameras so it can find all the balls. It has a companion app that not only keeps track of your playtime, but allows you to quarantine it to a certain area of the court. And the whole thing started out as a Raspberry Pi experimentation, which moved around to a couple of different pieces of hardware, but eventually ended up on a custom SBC. And it's kind of an adorable take on that vacuum.
It really is adorable, and the way that the balls sort of just pop up after it's collected them, so cute.
What is that vacuum called? That automated vacuum that goes around?
Roomba.
The Roomba. Yeah, thank you. Right. Yeah, so TennyBot or TennyBot or whatever, the first robotic collector that turns out really solves a problem with tennis. See, I don't do the sports, so I didn't really think about this, but they spend a lot of time, in fact, maybe more time, you might say, picking up balls than hitting balls.
Right,
That's
and you are
beyond it.
lazy, so you can appreciate it from that vantage.
Ubuntu's really powering the robot revolution. The retail price is going to be $1,000. It's on Kickstarter right now. It's got 16 days left to go. With 96 backers, they've smashed through their $35,000 goal, $68,000 right now. It's in Boston. So, Mr. Popey or Mr. Wimpy, any of you in the halls of Canonical heard about the TennyBot since it's Ubuntu-powered?
The first time I heard about it was when I saw the blog post and the video, and I never thought I wanted a ball collecting robot, and now I want one.
Yeah.
Yep, same.
Yeah, sure, it starts with collecting balls, but that's just the first job. I mean, there's all kinds of things
Right.
it could do.
It could spit rotating knives. It could do all kinds of things.
It could be a
that's
portable.
specific.
Yeah, that was really specific. That was odd. It could also be a chicken chasing robot, which could save you some time, Mr. Popey, so that would be good. So go check out, I guess it's TennyBot. Now, I like TennyBot because it's, I don't know, I feel like that's cuter, but TennyBot
It is cuter.
the autonomous and intelligent robot that saves players and coaches time by eliminating the tedious task of collecting them balls. All right, so I wanted to start with something light because now we're going to get into something kind of heavy. That was Chris trying to bring the mood up for a moment. The Software Freedom Conservancy Center the Software Freedom Conservancy, no center, is making a big stink about Tesla's recent move to try to get more GPL compliant. And there was a blog post that went out on the history of Tesla's GPL issues on the Conservancy's site. And as a result of some recent effort, semi-recent, there has been a massive code dump by Tesla. and 676 change files from the Linux kernel with 413,000 additions, 336 deletions from that code dump. And it's really just this big ball of code, just this massive drop that just came from Tesla. So what's going on here? What's the real story? Well, the Conservancy kind of points it all out. And they say they rarely talk about specifics in the ongoing legal matters around GPL enforcement. In accordance with their principles of GPL enforcement, they say they usually keep these matters confidential, not for their own sake, but for the sake of the violators who want discretion, so that way they don't have to fear public reprisal, which I thought that was interesting. They're worried about people shaming them, I suppose, Wes?
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, so generally they say they don't talk about this, but in this case they were, quote, thrilled when Tesla decided to go public. This week, Tesla acted publicly regarding its current GPL violations and announced that they're taking their first steps towards compliance. The Conservancy has been engaging with Tesla on its GPL compliance issues since June of 2013, when they advised Tesla that they had received multiple reports of GPL violations in Tesla's Model S. Customers who purchased the Tesla Model S received an onboard system that contained BusyBox and Linux and did not receive any source code or any offer for that source code. In parallel, they've also been asking other entities to advise Tesla about GPL compliance, and Tesla has received GPL compliance advice from multiple organizations in addition to the Conservancy. But for the Conservancy's part, they were working with them to collaborate with upstream providers. NVIDIA and Parrot both get a mention in this post that they were working to perhaps get NVIDIA to release some code that Tesla was using. And they have a term in here that we haven't mentioned a lot on the show, corresponding source. And there's an acronym that you'll see passed around a lot now. It's called CCS, corresponding source. So they wanted all of the corresponding source releases for all GPL binaries found in the Tesla Model S. Now, during this time, since like June 2013 and on, there's been this back and forth between Tesla and the Conservancy. And Tesla would send them a huge code dump and say, okay, is this it? Are we good now? Or did we get everything? And the Conservancies, and they say this in the post, they spend the majority of their time going through this massive code dump and seeing if they were missing something, having to run different analysis tools against it. And that had been going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This week that changed. Tesla took a new approach and just did the code dump publicly. And it's incomplete with its CCS candidates, which is the complete corresponding source code. On the online software site GitHub, Tesla made this big dump, and they say this is a first step. Now the community can engage and help Tesla identify where they are still falling down. And I guess in some ways it's good. It seems like behind the scenes there's been a lot of discussion between the Conservancy and Tesla, and the Conservancy wants people to know it. They don't get to normally publicly talk about these, and this is their chance to say, look, this is the work we do. This is why you need to fund us.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe with this dump, there can be better feedback cycles between the community and the people actually who own Teslas and want and are entitled to this source.
I wonder if this Tesla dump is sort of like them trying to catch up as fast as possible because there might be some clock ticking about how long they've been out of compliance. I wonder if that's an aspect, an angle of this. We can't really tell from the outside, but I was picturing myself just fantasizing for a moment about having a Model S. Could you imagine? And
you look good. You look real good in it.
Thanks, Wes. And discovering that there's Linux or BusyBox on this thing, my first thought immediately would be, well, okay, so where's the source? And you got to figure there's several Tesla drivers out there, at least, that are Linux users that must have been wondering. And so they've been sniffing around and prodding the Conservancy, it sounds like, to say, hey, can you look into this? Because, like, what's going on with this? I want my source.
I think there's twofold in this. One, they are going to benefit by adding to the general public some degree of deniability. Let's say when it happens a crash, you have to wonder, was the car modified? I mean, after all, they released the source code. And it also makes them look good for open source communities. It doesn't even need to be as up to date as the real thing is, but it's just win-win in this PR marketing.
Yeah, it is definitely a good guy move, even if it's not complete. That's a good point. It's sort of it's sort of a win-win for them. Popey, you have it seems like quite an opinion in the chat room. Do you want to surmise some of that here?
No, I think there was some misconception that BusyBox is an evil actor in this, but it's just that BusyBox comes up a lot because the people who are significant copyright holders in BusyBox are quite, not litigious, but they're quite active in making sure that companies that use BusyBox in their embedded systems are complying with the license, as they should do. So I think that's why BusyBox comes up a lot. Other people are not so keen to file lawsuits or be so active in berating companies publicly. So that's why BusyBox comes up quite a lot in these conversations.
What is your opinion of that?
I think it's a good thing. I think companies should comply with the license of the software that they're using.
I think it is a good thing, too, and I think you need some projects that are pushing that forward, but obviously I understand why some projects don't want to be too aggressive because they don't want to scare away commercial interests. So, yeah, you might bring it up a bit, Popey. Yeah, I think that's an interesting story. We'll have a link in the show notes. Keep watching it from what I can. But, the thing with all these legal stories is there's such a trickle of information. So let's talk about something
really
more
slow.
immediate. Yeah. This is a cool retro-inspired arcade racer called Slipstream. And the reason why I'm mentioning it on the show, because it's been a while since we really talked about games, is because the whole dang thing was developed on Linux. It was developed exclusively on Ubuntu and Arch using free software tools such as Corita, Blender, and GIMP, and IntelliJ IDEA CE for the coding. Not a single sprite in the game was made using Windows or any proprietary software such as Photoshop. And the author says, don't consider this even a political statement. It just felt better to use that. It just worked better for me. That was the workflow. The soundtrack, I think, was developed outside of Linux, but it was initially a Kickstarter. It had 443 pledges. It got to $7,000. And they managed to finish it. And now the game, as of this week, is live in Steam on Linux, developed on Linux. And I got to tell you, it is so awesome because it is retro, quote-unquote, inspired, but it's obviously using more modern graphics capabilities because they managed to make like the parallel effect stuff look so much cooler than it did in the old games. Slipstream, Wes, it might be time for you to do a little
I'm going
gaming.
to install it after we're done with the show because it looks like it's a ton of fun to play, honestly.
Yeah. And, 7K, that's a pretty modest goal for a Kickstarter game. And it's
It
nice.
It's got
20
kind of
different
evangelism,
Yeah.
where they're not flouting Linux is the best or anything else, or this is some ulterior motive. It's just a good game made with tools that work for them. That's kind of perfect. It proves it's possible without putting people away.
And it's one I feel like I could play with the kids too. It's got a bunch of different game types, different cars, all the kind of stuff the kids love. And supposedly the soundtrack's supposed to be original and kind of cool. And it's got arcade mode, quick race, and Grand Prix mode, which is the kids love that on Mario Kart. So I might get this one myself. So I want to mention a little housekeeping before we keep going. That next week, I think I'll be here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on next week because I'm heading out to Texas starting this weekend. After I record Linux Action News, I hit the road to go down to Texas Linux Fest, and I'm very excited about it because it's going to be a big journey. I'm hoping to meet up with people along the way. We've also launched a Texas Telegram group for coordinating meetups and barbecues and just general Linux Fest type things. JupiterBroadcasting.com/Texas if you want to join our Texas meetup group. So Texas Linux Fest itself is June 8th through the 9th. I've been talking about that, but I'm doing the whole trek down there. And one of the reasons I'm going, and I haven't really talked about this part, is it's not just for Texas Linux Fest. In fact, that's not the actual reason I initially wanted to go. Now it is one of the major reasons I'm going. But initially, I was going to meet up with the folks at Linux Academy because they have themselves a bit of a problem that Jupiter Broadcasting was once facing, and I offered to help. And the situation is, and this isn't a promo, I'm just telling you the background. They've grown like crazy because of their successful advertising on the Jupiter Broadcasting Network, undoubtedly.
That's right.
And yeah, they've just grown like bananas. And I think they've added something like 116 people. It's a lot. They've added like over 100 people.
Wow.
Yeah, and they've been growing, and that's why they're always that's why they're staying on top of all their content and stuff. But when you do that, sometimes as a Linux company, you bring on people, you're not going to guarantee that all 100 of them plus are using Linux. It's just not, you can't really at that scale, at that speed, do that. And so as they brought on these employees, and they've built out a live streaming part of Linux Academy, so they can do live streaming sessions and announce content and stuff like that. And they're integrating that in as part of their service. And the people they brought on just are not familiar with doing that under Linux. And they've built a hell of a solution, but they've built it all around the Mac. And it works, and maybe that's the way it'll stay, but I'm going to go down there. I'm going down to Texas to help Linux Academy build a live streaming recording solution, much like one we've built for Jupiter Broadcasting, to basically go from Mac OS and Wirecast to Kubuntu and OBS. And that's the main reason why I'm going down to Texas, is to help them accomplish that switch, because we're in a pretty good position to share that experience. It's all kind of still relatively fresh, and it's been working really solid for us. It's like one of those solutions I'm really proud of, because it surpasses what Wirecast and the Mac can do. So it's not just, we're replacing proprietary software, and that feels good, but we're also stepping up in stability, performance, and it's just a really good solution. So I contacted them and said, would you like us to help you get that going? And they said, yes, please help, come down here. Everybody's hungry to learn. Everybody's on board. They really like the idea. And so after Texas Linux Fest, I'll be doing that. And so as part of getting down to Texas Linux Fest and covering some of our cost and whatnot, we've decided to launch a shirt, as we do from time to time. We haven't done swag for a long time. I really like this one, teespring.com/JBTexas. It's inspired from the old LAS logo. And something that I think we're going to start doing as much as we can is we're going to own that beard on tux. We're going to just put bearded tux on everything. That beard represents the legacy of LAS. Like, doing 11 years of the Linux Action Show legitimately gave us our beard. And so now when we launch swag, I think we're always going to have tux with a beard whenever we can. And this is one of the second shirts ever, the only other one being the final last shirt, that has bearded tux. It's a special Texas edition. It's got Texas 2018 on there. And I think it looks really good. It's just got put together by Albert. If you guys have been to Linux Fest, or he's been on the show a couple of times in the Mumble Room, it's just, he helped us put it together, and I think it looks super great. Him and Angela worked hard on that. So that's the shirt we're launching to just kind of help with this initiative, because it is very expensive to get down there. And plus, at the rate I'm going and the way I'm going to try to keep the shows going. And so that means that we're going to be working our butts off the whole way down there. Once we get down there, it's meetups, it's Fest, and then it's Convert Linux Academy to Linux for their broadcast systems, and then it's haul home again. And we'd love any support you can get, or if you just want to get yourself some swag. Some great colors. I know from experience, I really like the blue. The blue with the white logo is super sharp, and the dark, like purple. Yeah. Oh, it does. It looks good. teespring.com/JBTexas. If you want to get in on that. And again, our Telegram group, jupiterbroadcasting.com/Texas. I'm just really looking forward to it. I just really enjoyed Texas last time I went down there. So a little PSA, and Texas Linux Fest is, again, June 8th through the 9th, if you can make it. It'd be super cool to see you guys down there. It'd be really, really neat to meet up with somebody along the way, too. I've already got a couple meetups arranged, so that's starting to happen now. If you want to meet up with me, at ChrisLAS on Telegram or on Twitter, that would be actually preferred. So let's talk about Mycroft for a moment, because it is time to talk about beans. And Mycroft's got a solution to get interest to peak again, and it's the blockchain. And apparently they've been talking about crypto and integration with Mycroft. So Wes, I'm gonna break it down for you, and then if you could just sort of try to extract from this what the blockchain is actually going to be used for with Mycroft, that'll be your job, okay?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little challenge. All right, so why is the blockchain necessary with Mycroft? Here we go. One of the biggest themes was determining the necessity of adding blockchain. After all, we could simply build a distributed system using peer-to-peer technology, or better yet, focus on core technology to build something that's valuable without blockchain. When we examined blockchain and debated the tough questions, it felt like the technology could be a very good fit for Mycroft and our ideals. Oh, and another thing. Does it make sense for Mycroft to develop its own chain? Yes. Unequivocally, yes. We carefully evaluated solutions from existing blockchain communities, and none of them have features we're looking for. We need to protect user privacy, store large volumes of data, and securely distribute API services. Finally, we get a lot of questions about what a Mycroft crypto mining community might look like. Will we be large enough? Yes. A Mycroft token would be designed so that the Mark I, Mark II, and the Mark III, didn't know about that one, did you? Will be able to mine the coin. That means we will instantly have thousands of devices participating in the network, and of course, it will be opt-in. All right, so those are the highlights. So can you, Wes, explain to me how blockchain will be used with Mycroft?
That is a very good question. So it seems like they do want to use it for some things to incentivize. They mentioned here things like provisioning of secure storage, development and maintenance of useful skills. So in that respect, it seems almost like an internal token
man,
or
you know what?
currency
Hold
to
on.
trade with
man.
users.
Hold on, I got a bad news.
Uh-oh.
We have a recording error. Oh my God, no way. Oh man, no. We're like halfway into this. We're no. Fuck.
Have you tried wagging your finger at it?
Pip pip.
Oh man. I tell you what, that is disappointing. But I guess so. Let's see here. Yeah, it fucking ran out of disk space.
Oh, dude, really? That was Chris rebooting everyone. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, that was my brain realizing that we have to redo the intro and the stories and the whole Texas thing, which was totally improv because people are telegramming me while I do the show, and I'm adding stuff to the show while I'm sitting here running my mouth. And it's super frustrating, and man, that stinks. Oh, man, that smells bad. I tell you what, that is a major bummer.
Everybody go check your disk space.
The whole Tesla thing. The whole Tesla thing. Why does life have to be like this? Why is this how life goes?
Because it teaches important lessons.
Well, that's why Mycroft wants the blockchain, right? So it's always perpetually stored.
There you go.
Save it for later.
Yeah, you wouldn't run out of disk space in the blockchain, would you?
I hate you. I want you guys to all have gas. That's what I wish. All gas on all of you.
Yeah. We should be mining that JB coin.
Okay, so let's see if I can do this again. I think, boy, the challenge is going to be not to just ram through it, right? I'm going to have to try to take my time. And oh God, this is just painful. But I'm glad I noticed before we got too far. But geez,
yeah,
I had Telegram up and I looked behind.
Do you
Telegram
have space now?
Yeah. Well, I just need to save it to the right folder, and it would have been fine. And if I didn't have Telegram up, I would have noticed the error message sooner. But it's just, okay. And I have still 3 unread fucking telegrams. So I guess the moral of the story is, Wes, if something comes up during the show, don't expect to get me on Telegram because I'm just going to quit Telegram.
Okay, noted.
You know where to get me. You know where to find me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you're going to have to stop recording over there, Wes, and you're going to have to start recording again. I guess that was a practice run.
I mean, technically, couldn't you record at a lower quality video since you're not exporting video anymore?
Oh no!
JG,
don't give him don't give him
don't do that,
sysadmin advice. Don't do that.
Don't modify things.
Don't do that.
You don't really want to. You don't want to do that. You really don't. You really don't.
Don't go there, girl.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Wes, go ahead, and if you hadn't stopped, you can go ahead and stop. Maybe just make a new file or something. Proud of you for having a recording, though, Wes. Plenty of disk space. I have a folder that I'm supposed to be saving it in, but I wasn't because.
I mean, I'll admit to checking my disk space right as you said that, so I'm good. I'm good.
All right. So are you ready with your record over there? You know what I should do is I should.
I've got an empty iPod you can borrow if you want. If you need some disk space.
Oh, it's one of the disk ones, is it?
Is that the one with Ubuntu Podcast Season 6, Episode 30 on it?
That's the one.
You know, that's not a bad
episode.
I know a podcast. It was Hello Internet. That's what it was. That did that released like an episode on vinyl. So the only way you can get the episode is by buying a vinyl, record and a vinyl player.
Wow.
Oh, we're talking the CGP Grey.
That is a limited item right there. That's for sure. All right. Well, so I guess that was rehearsal. So this would be like if we did rehearsal, everybody.
Yeah, I feel warmed up now.
Yeah, I feel really good to go. Like we're just
We're ready to go.
Now everybody. Now
At least it gives Popey plenty of time to increase his levels.
Are you playing Fortnite, Popey?
No.
Rust?
No.
That was rather fast.
I'm gonna grab a beverage since we haven't started. I actually don't have anything to drink, which is
Yeah, we haven't started yet. It's all right. We've got plenty of time.
That was just a dress rehearsal.
It's like nearly midnight.
I feel so sorry for Noah now.
I've accidentally bought a OnePlus 6.
Oh, accidentally?
Is that right?
How can you accidentally buy a phone? Did you just press the buy button?
Accidentally put it in the basket and accidentally paid for it.
Like, were you
Your mouse hovers
were
over.
Were you sleep shopping?
what did you
I'll,
accidentally just buy? What did you
OnePlus
accidentally
6.
Oh, good. That's
On accident.
I'm looking forward to hearing your opinion on that.
So I'm going to have to find my video of Wimpy unlocking his phone.
But the best thing
is
if you-
how fast it unlocks.
it's probably if you guys ever noticed that if you search for it, like OnePlus as words 6, the number, you will actually get the calculator to show up in the search bar.
All right, we got to start.
I
'cause now
mean,
we're gonna run late. So Wes, are you ready with the recorder on your end?
Yes, I am.
All right, so I'm going to start the mumble recording. So there is the mumble recording, and then all right, Mr. Wes. Sorry about
Not
about
a
this.
problem.
I feel awful though. Okay, so we are going to just we'll count to 4, and then on 4 hit record. So it'll be
On
1,
4,
2, 3 record. All right, 1, 2, 3 record. All right. Now we are recording, so we need to do our moment of silence again. So no moving, no breathing for like 10 seconds or so.
Oh, let me get my
No
gate down
gating.
here.
Yep. All right, here we go once again, like we've never done it before. Those fucking birds are going to be a ball ache still, but it is what it is.
I
All
thought
right,
you
well that was
went out
fun.
and shot them while we were.
You know,
waiting.
I actually, I got to tell you, Wes, people don't talk about this, but birds fight all the time. And if you think about how absurd that is, like humans, at least when we fight, we're fighting over territory and resources on this rock. But the birds have the whole frickin' sky, and they
much sky.
land. Yeah, they land on my roof. And they fight on my roof. They have like battles on my roof, and I can hear them charging each other. Tap, 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 boom. And then they collide, and then it's smack, 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 smack all over the place. And then they take off, and then they come back, and then it's tap, 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 and they collide, and they ram each other on my roof. And they don't care
I think
about
that
me.
It won't be a problem if we just get a live stream of the roof action, and that can, instead of the IRC room, that can just be what goes out to the tubes.
We'll make it a patron exclusive. Put that behind a paywall.
Yeah, exactly. And then we'll be disappointed when that becomes more popular than the show itself.
No kidding,
Hey,
it would,
it's all
right?
for the audience.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, crows fight a lot. I know. It's weird. It's really strange because it's like I think like they don't care at all that I'm down here yelling at them. Plus, then that also means I'm down here yelling at them like a lunatic.
Yeah, right. You look crazy.
Yeah. So there's that. All right. So we'll get started here. You see here. Sorry again if this is a little loud, guys, because it's the way it's being routed. But here we go. It's intro time. Mumble Room, brace yourselves. You'll be on cue here in a moment. And we begin in a 3s, in a 2. And Joe, sorry if the levels are a little off. You might it's going to be a little odd, but hopefully it'll be okay. In a 3, in a 2. This is Linux Unplugged, episode 250 for May 22nd, 2019. Welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show that's definitely gotten bitten by the new laptop bug. My name is Chris.
My name is Wes.
Hello, Wes. This week, we're going to talk about something that's been on our minds for weeks. The perfect Linux laptop for 2018. We've got a few suggestions. We'll take your suggestions, and we'll start a little elimination and decide which one might be the best, at least for a lot of our needs. Plus, I've really cracked Notes on Linux now. I mentioned this recently, but I'll go over my final setup, how I'm using Nextcloud 13, Q-Own Notes, Cloud Notes for the iPhone, and Notes for Nextcloud to get Markdown compliant, synchronized notes across my desktops, my laptops, my phones, and the web. Plus, we've got
the
some
holy
great-
grail.
It is. Plus, we've got some great app picks, some really useful tools, some great community news like Gnome's Performance Hackfest, building cute apps with Rust, and some robots that are picking up balls, and Tesla's GPL compliance battle, as well as why Mycroft might be integrating blockchain into future devices. Yeah, I said that. Mycroft integrating blockchain. The Mycroft coin could be nigh. So we have so many things to talk about on today's episode. So we can't go any further without bringing in the Mumble Room. Time-appropriate greetings, Mumble Room.
Good
What's
evening.
up?
Hello.
Greetings.
Ooh, that was powerful. Ooh, a little bit of a
So
strangler
much
there.
mumble.
All right, guys. We have some serious stuff to get into. So I thought maybe before we got all really serious, we could start with something light. An automated ball boy. It's a robot powered by Ubuntu, and you guessed it, it's a Kickstarter right now.
Players and coaches everywhere know the frustration and tediousness that goes into collecting balls during a practice session. And this is why we invented Tenabot. Tenabot is the world's first robotic ball collector. Tenabot perfectly integrates computer vision and artificial intelligence to detect tennis balls on the court and collect them for players. You can let Tenabot work autonomously using the station that easily attaches to the net post, or use Tenabot's app to customize where in the court the device will clear. Tenabot easily syncs to your phone and even your Apple Watch to make activation quick and seamless. The app also keeps track of how many balls are collected during a session and how often you practice. So feel free to brag to your friends about how you're stepping up your game while never having to pick up another tennis ball.
Of course. That's right. This Ubuntu-powered autonomous ball boy is launching here in the U.S., and they started it as a Raspberry Pi product, then moved it on to an Arduino, and then eventually their own custom SBC, and they say that Ubuntu was a natural choice because it was easy to get working with the team, it provided the stability that needed, and there was plenty of support, and they crammed it into this robot that's got all kinds of crazy cameras and sensors, and Wes, I don't know if you knew this because I'm not a sports guy. Don't believe in it. Don't believe it. Don't believe in sports. But I'm told by these people that do that they spend sometimes more time picking up balls than they do hitting balls.
Yeah, right. I mean, everyone hates it. You want to play the fun part of the game. You don't want to do all the rest of the maintenance work. This thing's got an 80 ball capacity, so I don't know how much tennis you play, but that's more than enough for me.
That's probably going to do me for my whole life, I tell you. So this thing comes with a companion app that tracks like how many games you play, and lets you like section it off to a certain area of the court, which is kind of neat. And it is up on Kickstarter if you want to get in on it, right? So you can get it for like $600 right now. Eventually, it's going to be like $1,000. They've already smashed their goal. They had $35,000 goal. They've raised $68,243 with 96 backers, and they still got 16 days left to go. Tenabot, running Ubuntu.
I mean, I wouldn't buy it for me, but if you were like a private tennis club, it kind of seemed, $650, $1,000. That's not that much for a nice piece of equipment if it lasted you a couple of years, and it looks really handy and it's so cute.
I was asking Popey before the show. I said, "So did you hear anything in the halls of Canonical about this robot?" And he said, "No, but you did have a good idea for what you could use a robot like this for." What was that, Popey?
Right. Well, the whole thing about Ubuntu Core is with snaps you can deliver additional functionality after the thing has been deployed. So it's not like a router that you install and then it's a fixed set of functionality. With snaps you can add functionality. So you could add an application and add a bit of extra hardware and make it shoot out rotating knives instead of picking up balls. It could do anything. It's brilliant.
Yeah, could definitely could chase some chickens. It could throw knives. I mean,
Totally.
Maybe like an automated a barbecue. Put a little barbecue on that thing. Have it grilling some hot dogs while you're playing. Wait, that's probably not the idea.
This is getting to Fantasyland.
Autonomous Linux powered ball boy, and you can back it right now. They got an early backer, although those are all gone. You could get it now. You can still get it though for $600. Nope, that's all gone. Wow, this thing's really doing good. So there you go. Did that make you feel good? That was your feel good story to start us out because the next story is a bit heavy.
Great.
Good. I'm glad that worked. So let's talk about Tesla's GPL compliance. Ooh, yeah, you may have seen this story. It started out with a blog post from the Software Freedom Conservancy, easy for me to say, on the status of Tesla's GPL compliance issues. So what's happened? So here's the practical aspect of what's happened. Tesla's just recently done a big dump of their Linux kernel branch. They just had like a generic user on GitHub called Tesla Open Source. And it looks like at some point they, branched or forked the Linux kernel. They have made 676 changes in their code dump with 413,000 additions and 336 deletions. Also in build root, there's one commit per release. So there's like 643 change files in there, a bunch of additions, things like that. But it's nothing major. It's just this big, obtuse dump of code. And you can't really suss much out of it other than maybe there's some things that are missing. And that's where the Conservancy's blog post comes in. So the Software Freedom Conservancy wrote on May 18th, Bradley Kuhn did, that the Conservancy rarely talks about this stuff, that they try to keep this stuff under wraps as part of their community-oriented GPL enforcement policy. They say they usually keep compliance matters confidential, not for their own sake, but for the sake of the violators who request discretion and want to fix their mistakes without fear of public reprisal. I guess that would be like GPL shaming, Wes?
Yeah, probably. And I can see that, if they're showing goodwill, they're showing that they do want to get this corrected. Sometimes, much like in security, you can have things go public a little too soon and they don't have time to, get the public face that they want. Now, that may not seem fair, but I think from a pragmatic angle of we just want this code to be released and for the public to benefit, it probably makes sense.
Yeah. So they write, they being the Conservancy, write that we're glad that this week Tesla has accepted to publicly address its GPL violations, and they've taken their first steps towards compliance. The Conservancy has been engaging with Tesla on its GPL compliance issues since June 2013. That's when that's when the Conservancy advised Tesla that they had received multiple reports of GPL violations regarding Tesla's Model S. Customers who had purchased the Tesla Model S received onboard systems that contained BusyBox and Linux and did not receive any source code nor an offer for the source. In parallel, we also asked other entities to advise Tesla about GPL compliance. We know that Tesla received useful GPL compliance advice from multiple organizations in addition to the Conservancy. Let's pause here for a second, though. So what they're saying in here is that Tesla owners, and some of them are going to be Linux users, they got their new shiny car, and they start looking at the UI, and all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, this is BusyBox. This is Linux. Well, where's the source? But you also have to wonder if maybe BusyBox didn't raise a red flag, because they seem to come up a lot. Like, BusyBox seems to bring up GPL compliance issues more than most projects we talk about. Like, I think the VMware case is famously a BusyBox case. So this is one of those where what's going on here? Is BusyBox being aggressive? I've heard people suggest that perhaps BusyBox is GPL shaming Tesla into doing this. Bobby, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I think this is reasonable. Like, the BusyBox comes up a lot just because they're not necessarily significantly more litigious than anyone else, but the significant copyright holder in BusyBox is quite active in ensuring people are compliant with the law under which they receive the software, the license under which they receive the software. So it's perfectly reasonable someone who has spent some time and effort making a piece of software and has licensed it under a free license should be able to expect that people who use that should give back in the way that's expected under the license. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, and BusyBox just seems to be one of the projects that's more active in doing that. Other projects seem to be a little more relaxed. And I think both approaches, you could argue, one is probably more corporate friendly, but one is more defensive.
It seems like in this space too, right? Like BusyBox ends up getting shipped in embedded spaces where you end up with some sort of appliance-like device or somewhere not necessarily directly accessible. It's not a desktop Linux environment most of the time. So it's a bad situation on both sides.
Yeah, and I bet you there's way more abuses in those embedded spaces where they think they're getting away with something. Oh, it's only going to sell a few 100,000. Nobody will ever even know. And they sneak it in there. And somebody notices.
But I think it's twofold. I think it's twofold in the sense that they now have also the deniability when something wrong happens, that they have to investigate first if the car was hacked or modified, because ultimately they release part of their source code, and that's something that they of course can benefit from, while also looking good for open source community. So it's just like it's win-win-win in all fronts.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And for the Conservancy's part, they said that when they first contacted Tesla, they started working in different ways to try to convince upstream providers like NVIDIA and Parrot to disclose complete corresponding source code. So you're going to see this acronym tossed around a lot in these cases, CCS. That stands for complete corresponding source code. And it's like, so you got some GPL code that also touches some other code. We'd like to have that too. NVIDIA. During that time, Tesla privately provided the Conservancy with multiple rounds of complete corresponding source code, and then the Conservancy spent a considerable amount of time digging through that and trying to validate if it was complete or not, and then sending it back and say, no, this is missing. And that is the longest, most grueling part of this process, and this week, that's when things changed. This week, Tesla took a new and different approach. They elected to publish their incomplete complete corresponding source. So like they're candidates for complete source on GitHub. Yeah, it's like going to be almost there, and this is what we got so far. Now of course, it's sort of also going to open up Tesla for people knocking on their door, just drive-bys. They're going to look through that and go, hey, I've noticed you're missing this. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing. It might help nudge Tesla into compliance. But you got to wonder, was there some ticking clock behind the scenes that forced them to do this big code dump all of a sudden? And when you read through this post, it's clear that the Conservancy is trying to position this as, hey, guys, this is some of the work that we do on a routine basis that we don't get to tell you about. Would you please donate? Please donate. Oh, we're over here. We're doing a lot of good work. Because they don't normally get to talk about this stuff. So I think they wanted to take the opportunity. Karen and Bradley want to take the opportunity to point that out.
It's also nice to see. Yeah, it's nice to see Tesla. I think there's often times where it can be contentious, right? The company wants to admit the minimal version that they can. They struggle to get all the licenses right, and it's just a big hassle. So if Tesla feels comfortable doing this in the open, especially as not a traditional automaker, but something that we see a little bit more as a tech savvy, tech first company, it's nice to see them going in the right direction.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, let's pick it back up again. Let's keep moving. I want to talk about a video game. I haven't talked about games in a while on this show, so I had to have a good reason to finally do it, and it's Slipstream. It released yesterday as we record this, and here's the cool thing about Slipstream. It's a retro-inspired arcade racer that was developed exclusively on Linux, Ubuntu and Arch Linux to be specific, using free software tools such as Corita, Blender, and GIMP for the graphics, IntelliJ for the IDE, and not a single sprite of the game was made using any proprietary or Windows software such as Photoshop. And the author of the software says it's not really even a political statement. It's just feels better when I work on Linux and free software. So that's what I do. How do you like that? That's awesome.
That's kind of perfect. It's not annoying. It's not nagging. It's not some sort of Linux-centric evangelism. It's just, hey guys, this platform works. I got this done. Check out the cool shit I made.
Yeah, and it started as a Kickstarter. 443 pledges. They raised $7,000 to get things finished, and now it's available on Steam, and it is really nice. It's very authentic in a way, but at the same time, it's got newer features. Like the parallax scrolling looks way cooler than it ever did back in the day. It's still a 2D, sort of 3D pseudo game. 20 different tracks, 3 different game modes, a lot like Mario Kart, 5 car models, supposedly a pretty good soundtrack too, and a variety of different options to customize the game's visuals, including a high flute and 30 frames per second mode, and if you are a masochist, it also has a CRT mode. Which, no, just don't. Don't.
That's awesome.
I don't know. That seems
Can
broken
you use the
to me.
CRT mode on your CRT if you have one? Or is that too much?
That's double the punishment. I was gonna say double the pain, but that you would probably that's something else. Yeah. So anyways, that's pretty cool. It's called Slipstream, retro-inspired racer. It's available up on that Nextcloud right now. Hey, I want to talk about, speaking of hitting the road, my trip to Texas. Just a couple of quick public service announcements. I'm going to Texas Linux Fest, as I've mentioned, and so we have officially launched the Jupiter Broadcasting Telegram group, and you can find that at jupiterbroadcasting.com/Texas. And that's where we're going to be planning all of our meetups, our barbecue events, and just shenanigans around Texas Linux Fest, which is June 8th through the 9th in Austin. And that's jupiterbroadcasting.com/Texas to join that, where we'd love to chat with you if you're in the area. And you can follow me on my way down there jupiterbroadcasting.com/rover if you want to meet up. But I want to tell you a little more about why I'm going on this trip to Texas. It's not just for Texas Linux Fest. And I mean, it kind of is now. Like, I think now that I'm going to be meeting up with everybody, and I'm
You're
really
just
looking forward
stoked,
to,
right?
Yeah, now I would probably go just for Texas Linux Fest. But that wasn't the spark for this Texas fire. Maybe I should use a different analogy, but that's not what started this thing. What started this thing was an email that I sent Linux Academy, who is based out of Keller, Texas, a month or so ago, and maybe a little more than that. And what it basically was, hey, I was watching your live stream, and I noticed a couple of technical issues. Would you like to chat more? And maybe I could help consult, for free. I wasn't trying to charge them. I just wanted to help them out because, they've been a great sponsor for years. And they said, yes, we would love to talk. In fact, we'd love to talk a little more about that. And so, a long story short, Linux Academy has grown like crazy in the last year and so. I don't know how much of this. I think they have talked about this on their live stream. It's over 100 employees. I think it might even be over 110
That's
employees.
huge.
Can you imagine a small business as adding employees like that? And it's a lot of like instructors and developers. I mean, it's just they're onboarding people like crazy, and it's a huge process to scale out like that. And Anthony, the CEO of Linux Academy, has built a really solid team around him. I had a good chat, and I was really impressed with that aspect of the company. But they've had the main challenge is just getting all those people on board, not wrecking the culture. And the one thing that sort of slipped was the Linux doctrine, the following everything's Linux. Because you just, at that scale, you really can't mandate that everybody coming on board be a Linux desktop user and that everything they do be done from the Linux desktop. That's sort of impractical. And so they're like, what we want to do, though, is start addressing that now. We want to get back to Linux. You start riding that ship, and what they want to do is take the experience that we have, Noah and I, converting Jupiter Broadcasting from Mac OS and Wirecast to OBS and Linux and Kubuntu specifically, because that's their setup now. Like they've really done a good job of integrating live services into their courseware, into their service offering, and they've really pulled off some amazing stuff. But they're just doing it all on a Mac with Wirecast. And, it's functional. It works. But they're Linux Academy. So they want to do it on Linux, and they want us to come down there and help them essentially do what we've done semi-recently here in the studio. While it's still fresh, and we're really enjoying it. It's working rock solid. And the great thing about it is it's like one of those things I'm excited to do, because it's not just, we're replacing a Mac for because sake. It's a better solution. It's better performance, better stability. It's way more sustainable, there are way more hardware options, it's much more flexible. It's a better long-term solution. It's Linux and OBS. Whenever you can build your infrastructure around open source software, it just gives you way better sustainability and flexibility down the road. That's true for broadcasting as well. So ostensibly, the trip was about going to Linux Academy to convert their broadcast systems to Linux. And then the timing worked out, Texas Linux Fest sort of came up, and now it's really become one of the one of our core focuses. And so, along this whole trip, I'm going to try to do the shows. I'm going to try to keep things going. And we wanted to put a shirt out there that might help cover some of our expenses while we do this. While we get down to Texas, while we keep doing shows from the road, while we do the meetups. So we've launched a new shirt. It's teespring.com/JBTexas. Check this thing out. Now, this is a couple of things have gone into the shirt. You may have noticed we haven't done any swag for a while. It's because we've been thinking about this a little bit. There is something we want to do with our swag that makes it uniquely ours. Whenever we have tux on our swag, we want tux with a beard because we think our tux has earned that beard. After 11 plus years of the Linux Action Show, we earned that beard. So our swag is going to have a bearded tux. That's going to be one of the trademark things about Jupiter Broadcasting. And this is one of the only second times we've done this. The last time was the final Linux Action Show shirt. This is a Jupiter Broadcasting limited edition Texas 2018 shirt. It's got the circular logo like Lass used to have, but a special Texas edition of tux with a beard holding the rocket. Teespring.com/JBTexas. It's a great t-shirt. I love this particular material, and I really, really like the way the white pops on some of the bolder colors, and also the way it really pops on that blue and on the purple. It's slick looking. Teespring.com/JBTexas.
Sharp.
Yeah, right? I'm going to get you one, Wes, so don't you worry about it. We'll get you one.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
I am supremely
wear it
looking
with
forward
Ray.
to this trip. Yeah, you will. You know what, Wes? You'll look dapper in it, too. And put like a scarf and like a hat with it. I mean,
Heck yes.
I'm just saying, you'd be a lady killer out in the town of Seattle. So anyways, super excited about the trip. Really looking forward to it. You can track me on my way down there if you want to meet up. And then if you're going to be in the Texas area, join that Telegram group, jupiterbroadcasting.com/Texas. We'll have a link to all this stuff. If you don't want to worry about the URLs, it'll just be linuxunplugged.com/250. So, new swag, big trip coming up. I leave after Linux Action News this week. We finish up that, and then I hit the road. I'll be on my way to Tejas. We already have a couple of meetups
drive
planned.
safe, okay? Because we need you here at the network.
I'm not. It's going to be an interesting juggling act because doing the shows while I drive to Texas adds a ton of time to the travel time, because you have the time it takes to record the shows, plus I edit a handful of the shows, and the time to prep the shows, and the time to find connectivity. It's going to be challenging, to say the least. So if you're not subscribed to a show and you want to make sure you don't miss it in case there's something that floats, now would be a good time. But let's change gears. Let's talk about Mycroft. It's time to get to the bottom of what are beans. And Mycroft is introducing blockchain. And I'm going to give you a challenge, Wes. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
The challenge is I will read this. I've gone through and I've surmised it into a few choice quotes. I'll read through them, and then I want you to describe to me how the blockchain will be functional on Mycroft, okay?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll start with, is the blockchain necessary? One of the biggest themes was determining the necessity of adding blockchain. After all, we could simply build a distributed system using peer-to-peer technology, or better yet, focus on the core technology to build something that's valuable without blockchain. As we examined blockchain and debated the tough questions, it felt like the technology could be a very good fit for Mycroft and our ideals. Oh, and that's another thing. Does it make sense for Mycroft to develop its own chain? Yes. Unequivocally, yes. We've carefully evaluated solutions from existing blockchain communities, and none have the features we are looking for. We need to protect user privacy, store large volumes of data, and securely distribute API services. Finally, we get a lot of questions about what a Mycroft crypto mining community might look like. Will it be large enough? Yes. A Mycroft token would be designed so that the Mark I, the Mark II, and the Mark III, which you don't know about yet, will be able to mine the coin. That means we'll instantly have thousands of devices participating in the network, of course, if they choose to opt in. Okay, Wes, so how is the Mycroft using blockchain?
Okay, it's not really clear from this article. A little bit lower down, they do talk about some things they'd want to incentivize, things like secure storage for the network, development and maintenance of useful skills. And in an earlier blog post, they talk about a little bit of the motivations. I like the motivations. I like the idea that they want to become more decentralized. They don't want to have the usefulness of these open source devices reliant on some centralized incorporated entity. But there's a lot of hopeful speculation in here.
Yeah, and it seems like a way to kind of grab some attention. You know, we've seen Kodak and other companies, you just sort of attach blockchain to a project or product, and all of a sudden you get a lot more interest.
Well, it lowers the cost of the product for sure. That's one.
Yeah? How so? Because
them?
it's gonna be
Yeah, because they don't have to host the data and they don't have to comply necessarily with GDPR and this kind of stuff. I mean, I don't have anything. It's in the blockchain. What are you going to do?
You think they're going to use it for distributed user data?
Probably. I mean, if it's encrypted and protected, why not? It's going to serve the same purpose.
What about the idea of the Mycroft sitting there mining coin? Like, Popey, you've used one before. Is it a high performance device?
The one I had was the first generation, which is based on a Raspberry Pi. And if any of you have seen the videos that I've made, it's not super high performance. And I guess part of that is because it was a version 0. It wasn't production ready device. It was a dev kit, which is fair. And I would expect consumer level units. We're talking 18 months later. I would expect consumer level devices to be a lot faster. I mean, I still have to wait for my Amazon Echo to reply. It's relatively quick, but there's a significantly higher delay with Mycroft, and I think if you added in lots of heavy computational overhead on top of that, it's not going to get any quicker, is it?
I would like to know some of the technical implementations, because there's lots of type of coins that don't necessarily need a CPU or a GPU to do what they do. In fact,
Right.
What do they do?
Like they
What do
wanted.
they do? Hang on, they don't need a CPU or a GPU. Where do they
Yeah.
where do
No,
they
I mean,
do
they-
their computing?
No, I mean they do, but I mean they don't sit there and run the CPU at full
Oh, they
peg.
don't
They're more like storage based.
I mean, I don't even know if my Amazon Echoes around the house are mining blockchain, crypto coin or doing blockchain activities. I have no idea because it's all closed source. So the good thing is the stuff that's on Mycroft is, as I understand it, all going to be open source. So you could inspect that and see what it's doing and optimize it if you're so inclined.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, I kind of like the idea.
Right.
I was kind of mocking it at first, but the more we talk about it, it does kind of make sense. And if you could do some sort of storage coin based system, I'd actually be kind of into that. And if you think about it, if it could somehow, they would probably have to combine it with some sort of hosted blockchain, because anything that got relatively large, you wouldn't want to waste storage or bandwidth to download and upload that thing. But you could maybe cache some of it. And so if you had some of your own information, it could store in a local chain and it could do lookups in the blockchain. That could be pretty compelling. And then it would be completely divorced from any cloud infrastructure other than the hosted part of the chain that could be offline. I don't know. I'd really like to know more about how they're going to do it.
And depending how it's done, potentially could mean that, let's say if the encryption is to a degree that they, for example, would have access to mine some of the data to improve the voice recognition, etc. Now they would still have access to that data. I'd hope at least to be able to do that. By having a key that they can access the voice records to be able to do that, to improve voice recognition, for instance.
And, nothing says that they couldn't release the mining software for desktop computers, like, a Linux binary that you could run on a pretty powerful Linux desktop that could help add the value to your contribution, to your Mycroft's contribution to the network. So, okay. All right, this is sounding less and less crazy. You know what this means is we're just going to have a future full of blockchain. Every blockchain, all the things, and it's going to get really annoying. That's what that means.
No, it's until the energy bill is too high to people start realizing that we need something like blockchain, something decentralized, but not really blockchain.
Yeah, or at least something that doesn't require so much compute power to verify. And I know there's some different projects that are working on that. I feel like, Wes and you and I looked at at some point, different projects that were using other means to validate the network, but none of them, I'm drawing a blank on all of them right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different types of, proof of stake or other schemes of distributed consensus. I think it's more of a question of how well is it proved out, and will it actually scale? Would they really be able to transition from a centralized standard API design to a distributed blockchain that could actually provide the quick services needed for an interactive device? I don't know, but it would be really cool.
Yeah. And I'm ready to hook it up to my Linux desktop now. You guys got me so excited. All right, let's take a moment and thank Linux Academy, linuxacademy.com/unplugged. You can go there to support the show and sign up for a free 7-day trial. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. It's a platform to learn more about Linux, and they really are a company that's passionate about Linux. I mean, that's why they want me to come down there, is to help write that ship and make sure that they're using Linux throughout the company. And they have professionals that are there full-time that can help you whenever you have questions. And they really know their stuff. They have hands-on labs, scenario-based labs that give you real experience on servers, self-paced in-depth video courses in every Linux, cloud, and DevOps topic, and they have simultaneous. They have servers they spin up for you simultaneously with the courseware. So as you're going along with the courseware, the servers spin up, you SSH in, you do work on real servers, that kind of stuff. It's really slick. And they have a course scheduler. If you're busy, you got a lot of stuff going on, you can pick a course, set a time frame to fit your schedule, and set some learning goals. And if it's time for certifications, they've got courses created specifically to prepare you for those exams. And if you have just a little bit of time, maybe an evening here or there, they have deep dives, single topic deep dives. You can just choose. I have 15 minutes. Here's what you can do. I got 5 minutes. I got 2 hours. It's pretty nice. And then to combine all that together and really kind of put the sprinkle on top, they got stuff you can do offline, like study guides and lesson audio, which is super useful, like if you're on a road trip, just saying. And they also have iOS and Android apps as well. So get started by going to linuxacademy.com/unplugged. That's linuxacademy.com/unplugged. And a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Unplugged program, linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Boobaladoop, boobaladoop, boobaladoop. So there is some hot canonical rumors on TechCrunch.com today. It always strikes my fancy when I see TechCrunch writing about canonical like they're this nebulous company. I don't know. It's this weird detached form of writing. It's fascinating. And they say don't expect the Ubuntu maker to IPO this year. And they got some choice quotes with Mark Shuttleworth when he was at OpenStack Summit in Vancouver, which sounds like it was a hell of a party. And they say that Mark says that we decided as a company, and it's not just my decision, but we decided that we want to have a commercial focus. So we picked cloud and IoT as the areas to develop that. And being a public company, given that most of our customers are now global institution, it makes for us also to be it makes for us also be a global institution. I think it would be great for my team to be part of a public company. It would be a lot of work, but we're not shy of work. And think about what he's saying there. Like, we serve global companies. We should be a global company. Now, Shuttleworth didn't really necessarily want to talk about a timeline for the IPO. He said we will do the right thing at the right time, but that's likely not this year. There is no process. There is a process that you have to go through, and it takes time. We know that we know what we need to hit in terms of revenue and growth, and we're on track. The company's focus is squarely on enterprise, and they have big offerings now with OpenStack and Kubernetes, but it doesn't necessarily mean they've forgotten the desktop. Shuttleworth told TechCrunch the desktop team has remained the same size as before, and he noted that the desktop is still a passion for him. We took some big risks a year ago. We cut a bunch of stuff that people loved about us, but we had to see if people were going to respond commercially. That move is paying off now, though. During a keynote earlier at OpenStack, Mark Shuttleworth noted that Canonical is now in talks for about 200 new deployments for 2018. And I don't know what kind of deployments they're talking about. I assume OpenStack deployments, up from about 40 in 2017. They're kind of vague with some of the details there. But since it's an OpenStack conference, I would assume that is the context
Yeah, that
for
makes
that
sense.
quote. So no IPO this year. I thought an IPO in 2018, when that was sort of bubbling up, seemed pretty aggressive. But I don't really know what it doesn't really seem like it changes anything. It just seems like, okay, I mean, this is noteworthy.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes sense that you would, if you're already well positioned, if you're already doing well, that you would want to wait until, that you're at the right stride at the moment, you have a lot of prospects, and that people are excited about you because you want your IPO to go well.
Yeah, it really is all about striking the moment at the right time. And part of doing this right is knowing when that moment is and not shooting before it's arrived. All right.
Yeah.
That's
and
enough.
otherwise, there's a risk also if doing it in the wrong time to lose control, which is the risk of IPO.
What do you have in mind when you say that? Sounds like you have something specifically in mind.
No, it's just you're allowing other people to be part of your company. That's what an IPO does, and that comes with other people having a say at times. So you definitely want to do it in a time that you have a good vision, strong position, that it's hard to move away. So you benefit from having the cash flow, but not necessarily have the pressure to conform to new owners.
Yeah, I follow you. All right. Yeah, I think that's probably enough on that. So let's talk about an app pick that you might find pretty useful. It will launch commands when you press a combination of keys on your system. So like think of an auto destruct, or maybe just something more benign like mounting, unmounting, or something like that. But what it is, it's shortcut D. It reads kernel input device nodes directly, so there's no need for any graphical environment. It works on whatever the software stack you're using is. It supports blocking and non-blocking command spawns. And it's resilient to keyboard hot plugs. So you can plug your keyboard in only when needed, execute the combo, and then unplug it. And it will actually tolerate that. It's written, though, here's your favorite part, in Node.js. And it's been designed to execute low-level administrative commands, like, so say systemctl start some.service, and you just press a combo on your keyboard or on like a headless system. How useful could this be, like on a headless server in your house? and or even like a little ARM box, and it'll execute a series of things. Pretty nice, Wes. You found this. I gotta say, this is pretty nice. Did you have anything in mind when you found this shortcut D?
I don't have any actual direct day-to-day use cases, but I've been playing with it, and I can see now just sort of small things in my life that I could make more convenient. And partially, I was interested. It seems like kind of a good idea. For me, I usually end up having Node, the runtime installed anyway, so a Node script is fine. But I was also kind of wondering, I wonder if anyone else has seen a similar program, but maybe something written in Go, a static binary, or just a classic C
I've seen
program
worse.
that does the same thing.
I've seen worse. Node OS still releases and still up there. I mean, last release was in June 12, 2017, but it is there. Like, your primary shell is Node, so that exists.
Animals is what that is. That's just barbaric. Okay. Well, let's while we're talking about performance, let's talk about GNOME. GNOME is having a performance hack fest. I had one, I guess. I think it's actually done now. And when I grabbed the story, I believe it was going on. But it's happening in Cambridge, and that always means good weather and pub evenings, as they say. And there's a couple of tidbits that I pulled away from a blog post from Carlos. It's number one that I noticed is that X Wayland 1.20 seems to have some large improvements for battery life on a laptop. They managed to drop it down to a significant from a 20 watt draw to 8 or 9 watt draw. That's a good drop right there. And some other improvements, like work towards having Mutter dump a detailed per frame information, so that way they can actually graph and visualize where every single little nuance and slowdown is. Nice. And it sounds like some other projects might be doing that too. Yeah. And there's some other nice progress towards getting GDM to consume as little resources as possible when switched away, which has been one of my complaints about GDM. Is it's like a whole another GNOME session running, and so they're working on actually tightening that up. There has been some work to make 2D sessions work better in GNOME Classic, where you have what they call purely 2D actors, which is kind of a cool OpenGL term, I think, and ways to improve GNOME memory usage when it's just in the background in general. Were talked about. No work done yet, but they were discussing it. Overall, it was a nice and productive event, he writes, with knowledgeable people getting deep inside the GNOME stack now, trying to figure out where all the little performance issues are. That's good. Nobody has anything to add to that, though, huh?
No, it's
Yeah,
GNOME.
Well,
right?
I suppose I could share that we had developers from the Ubuntu desktop team participating at that event.
Oh, do tell.
Well, that's as much as I know. I the only things I've seen is a photo stream from Marco. Marco is the same developer that you saw in Taipei doing the fractional scaling work last year, and he's been in Cambridge helping with the GNOME Shell Hackfest.
Going deep on GNOME performance. Can I ask, is this work? This work is still valid if we go GNOME 4 and we retool the way all this stuff works? Or does this work kind of go out the window? Does anybody know the answer to that?
I shouldn't imagine that any of these developers are investing time and effort into something that's disposable.
That's what I would think too. It just makes me wonder if it's more of a sign that we're not fixing GNOME in GNOME 4 and we're keeping things the way they are, or if it is a sign that this code is going to be usable in GNOME Shell 4. I just don't know which one of those two things it is. Could be either way.
Well, didn't they change so that it supports multiple versions? So it wouldn't matter, as your newer apps would use the newer version and the older one would use the old one. It's no problem. I mean, isn't that the reason that they did that effort before?
I suppose if it's going to be around for a while, it's good to have it's best to have it as good as possible.
I just like seeing the updates from them. It's cool to see the insight and see that they're taking it seriously, they're concerned about it, and seemingly getting a lot of good work done.
Yeah, the GNOME project has gotten a rep for ignoring performance and not listening to users. But this week, we've seen this blog post about a performance hackfest where people are, making an effort to show up and do work there. And we saw they rolled back that decision to remove binary execution from Nautilus, which is a good sign that they're listening. People wrote in, they said, here's my use case, why I need to be able to execute binary files from my file manager. And the developers said, okay, all right, well, we'll punt this decision for now. We're going to keep talking about it, but we're going to punt. So that, to me, sort of busts both those myths. At least it doesn't add a data point to that line. And on a similar vein, in Joe's new show, Late Night Linux Extra, that just released its second episode, he interviewed Jonathan Riddle. And Jonathan Riddle is a well-spoken member of the KDE community who I think we should hear more from. And I'm really glad that he sat down and talked to Joe, because he busted one of those myths that KDE is really, really sluggish and it's it's got bad performance. He busted that myth in that show, and I think it's one of those things that just propagates over and over again. I will BRB. I'm going to go turn it on. See, it just turned on. Go ahead.
I saw somebody on YouTube installed all of the Ubuntu 18.04 flavors, and where possible installed the full version and the minimal version, and then profiled their memory use. And KDE, or rather Kubuntu, was among the lowest.
Wow.
Yeah, it is.
That's quite a bit of work to do, isn't it?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
keeping track,
it's
going
impressive.
through it all. Awesome. Some real data coming out of it too. Hey.
Yeah, and I agree. In my testing, it was surprisingly fast. I loaded it on that 10-year machine for an episode of Last I did a while ago, and it was the most modern desktop I could get on there. That was really, I guess the best way to put it is it just worked. It just degraded to a point where it was still very usable. It was very modern. I didn't really notice that anything wasn't working. But when you compare it to side by side to a brand new machine, I could see, okay, it's got a little less shiny, a little less shadows. But I didn't really have to do much. It just worked on a 10-year-old system. So, and I think the system only had 4 gigs of RAM, and it just worked great. So it gets a bad rap. GNOME gets a bad rap. I say, you know what? Take all of those reputations, all those myths with a grain of salt, because there's more nuance to all of these situations.
Still using it 3 months after the KDE challenge here.
Yeah, me
Good
too.
work, sir.
Yeah, it's going great. Hey, I'm gonna go all the way down to Texas and put Linux Academy on it for their broadcast system. I'm so into it. Nice. I really think it's solid, and I've been super happy with it. And I'm keeping Neon on a couple of systems too, because I like the fresh plasma goodness on a couple of my machines that aren't really in production. So one of the machines I'm working today from the RV is actually a Neon system. So yeah, I agree. It's gone really well. So yeah, I am remote today. Wes is remote. Today is like a test episode where we're super exciting. We're getting ready for the big trip. And so we thought, well, before I actually am going down the road, we should make sure everything works, because it's tricky to route all this audio for the Mumble Room and Wes and myself and record everything. And so this is a test episode. That's why it might sound a little different or whatever. It's not because our editor fell asleep at the wheel. It's just because we're testing different stuff. And so far, it's gone pretty well. And that's why I'm about to talk about Ting, because this would be the really awkward spot in the show if I had to say my connectivity was dropping out, our live stream had been bonkers, and none of our hosts could hear me. But fortunately, I don't have to say that. It's been rock solid. Linux.ting.com. This is how I'm getting down to Texas and staying connected. And the great part about Ting is they've got 2 networks. Right now, I'm on their GSM network. While I go through the mountains, I often switch over to CDMA. Now, I'm not going to lie. I don't do some sort of fancy switcheroo. I just have 2 devices. It's just the way I prefer to do it. It's simple. I just switch Wi-Fi networks on my laptop. So the GSM device has a Wi-Fi network and the CDMA device has a Wi-Fi, because they're little, access points. And I just, in my desktop or on my laptop, I just choose whichever one I want to be on that's going to be stronger in that area. So a lot of times when I'm in hills and trees, CDMA is just the better choice. But if I'm in town, or if I'm in like right now I'm in a valley, GSM is rock solid. It's like I'm getting right now 9 milliseconds. It's bouncing between 9 and 14 milliseconds on my ping. I have a little thing in my status bar that tells me what my ping is with 0% packet drop. And I've got VoIP connections back to the studio, to Wes, all kinds of things, and I'm doing it over Ting. Now, the reason why I tell you all of this is because this is never how I use Ting, unless I'm traveling. Otherwise, I just use Ting as like a backup data network. I use Wi-Fi when I'm at the studio or when I'm at home. And I download my podcast and I pin my music there. And I don't really make any phone calls. I don't do text messages. I do telegrams. And so it's like $23 a month for a phone. That's usually after your minutes, your messages, your megabytes. That's your average. $23 per phone per month. $6 for the line. And so for this month, I'm going to use Ting for data. I'll pay a little more this month. Next month, I won't. It's pretty simple. Also, if you're interested in Ting's fiber internet, they have a new frequently asked questions post up on their blog. Totally worth checking out. So go check it right now, linux.ting.com. Take $25 off a device or get $25 in service credit. That's linux.ting.com. And thanks to Ting for keeping me on the road. And see, the nice thing, too, about having those different MiFis is you can just pay the $6 if you're not really using it. And I can afford a $6 line. And it's great. It's great. I don't have to fuss with changing things around or
it's
activating,
always
reactivating.
there whenever you need it. Yeah,
Exactly.
Right. $6. That's great.
So Rust is coming to Qt, possibly, to Qt and QML. There is a new project out there called the Rust Qt Binding Generator. It's a pretty clever name. And it's a generator that helps you quickly use Rust code in Qt applications. So you can create a Qt or QML GUI on top of Rust code, which kind of seems like my peanut butter and my chocolate are coming together into a delicious technology sandwich. I love everything about this, Wes.
Yeah, right? I mean, come on. Qt, Rust, those are your favorite things to hype.
Yeah, exactly. And they say to combine Qt and Rust, you write an interface in a JSON file. From that, the generator creates Qt code from the Rust code. And then the Qt code can be used directly. The Rust code has two files, an interface and an implementation file. And it's really, it's so simple. Go ahead. It's so simple. I can.
Seems like a mess.
Go ahead.
Seems like a mess.
What? You bastard! I'm excited about this.
Here is what I have to say. There had been plans in the past by Rust community to make a Rust, toolkit, but they've been talking about it. It's like it's a lot of work to make a toolkit that is decent, that people will adopt it, and it's gonna compete with Qt. More fragmentation. So I find it good that there's efforts to go and integrate with Qt, and there's actually already efforts that integrate with GTK. It actually already worked, was the first one to work because Rust works with C and therefore works with GTK. Everything kind of works with GTK. That's one thing aside. Mm-hmm. But I feels like a mess to have now a process that you are not really going to be writing Qt nor really going to be writing Rust. So this is like an intermediate step, and honestly, this is what usually makes applications kind of crap. Go to crap directions. You are going to too many hoops in the between, and there's no clear, concise way of handling it. They're not doing a proper port of Qt to Rust, nor making a dynamic system that you bind to Qt objects. You are now having a generator tool. How is that any different from what Vala did?
I kind of disagree because you're still writing good, genuine Rust. It's not like it's some sort of weird Q-Rust hybrid.
You'd hope that, but then if you're really going to be writing genuine Rust, you will lose the ability to write genuine Qt. You have to think about that.
Wait, no. I think this is cooler than you're giving it credit because this isn't gonna be perfect, but this is an early step to getting some really solid Qt applications where you take a core Rust the application core of Rust, and then there is this description JSON file that the Qt interface, genuine Qt, is generated from, which isn't really all that different from how Qt applications are done today. It's just now making it possible to do it with Rust. Like that's how a lot of applications are being done on the Linux desktop already. It's just they're not using Rust. So like that's been proven to work.
I wonder also, will that mean, will this build momentum, even if it's not an ideal interface, will people be like, oh yeah, hey, I'm already writing Rust. I wanted to write a UI. Turns out Qt's pretty cool, and maybe that'll be more momentum to build a better.
That's probably more likely what will happen. Yeah. And Dar, did you want to finish?
Yeah, just the other part that I really see here is also loses a little bit on the opportunity to build something that Rust would actually benefit from. And the principles that we currently have in Rust, for example, like borrowing, it's a concept very unique to Rust language. Not quite available in C++, and you can kind of half-bake it, but you still have to do the hard work as a developer yourself. Like those benefits are not going to be necessarily there. And if the automated tool starts doing it, it's like code that people can't really inspect very well because it's going to be generated code, and generated code lacks in that transparency aspect. So I think there is a side effect that is potentially negative that is often overlooked. And it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if we get good applications, great, that's awesome. But I'd prefer to see the incentive. Yeah, I'd prefer to see more genuine attempts of making Rust toolkit, even though it's a harder, longer task, than to just go with that route.
I agree. Ultimately, that would be definitely best. And if you're going to have a really good desktop application that's, really robust, that's probably the route it would have to go. So ultimately, I want to get to our thoughts on the best Linux laptop in 2018. And I've kind of rounded up the ones that come to my mind, and they're sort of US centric. So I want to eliminate a couple off the list. I want to get a couple of more on the list, and also get, at least if nothing else, honorable mentions of ones outside the US. So that's where we're going. We're not quite ready to go there yet because I want to close the loop on replacing Evernote and a note system. I've been really, really tempted because those bastards over at Canonical just released Tusk as a snap. I assume it was probably you, Popey, you tempting jerk.
No, it's the upstream developer.
It was upstream.
Oh, really?
We had nothing to do with it. The upstream developer worked on it, created the snap, put it in the store. Job done.
Yeah, it looks good. So if you just want to stick with Evernote, check out Tusk, snap install Tusk, because that looks clean and almost made me want to give up on this whole thing I'm doing. But I'm trying to get away from Evernote because I think that eventually is going to be a dumpster fire. And I've also just wanted to try to self-host this stuff as much as I could. And I mentioned a couple episodes ago that I've been playing around with Fedora 28 and Nextcloud 13. And I consolidated my years and years and years and years and years of upgrades Fedora box onto this new 28 machine, moved over the Nextcloud container and all that kind of stuff. And so since I've sort of spent the time doing that, I at the same time I installed this app in Nextcloud called Notes. And it started just sort of casually. And then I installed QO Notes on my desktop. And by last week's episode, I was using QO Notes and syncing it up to Nextcloud. And I thought, it's working pretty good. It's nice. It just has a little spot in there. You plug in your server, it connects, checks, makes sure everything's okay. You're good to go. And then I started to realize that I'm using this thing on a daily basis now. I've completely stopped using Evernote, and I'm taking lots of notes right now because this going down to Linux Academy to get them to move over to Linux is a hell of a job, right? Because they've got it's a project. It's a full-fledged project because they have all kinds of crazy stuff they do down there. It's a real production, and I got to keep track of the hardware, all the different hosts, the connections, the types, like all this stuff. And I've been using the hell out of QO Notes to do this and prepping for the road trip and Texas Linux Fest. It's been really reliable and handy, and so I wanted to take it to the next level and get it across all my devices and see if that could really do the Evernote replacement. And I achieved Note Nirvana this week. And to kind of help maybe get you started, I'm going to link you in the show notes, linuxunplugged.com/250, a guide that was posted by Marco over on linuxjournal.com. And it's getting started with Nextcloud, how and why you should. And this is the more traditional approach, actually installing all of the software and the Apache stuff, configuring MySQL. I on my latest go about did not do this. I'm using a container. I know.
Look at you.
I did the Docker thing. But see, Nextcloud makes an official container. So I kind of feel like that was the way to go. Like they're the ones.
Yeah, you know that they're updating it, they're publishing it. It just works. You don't have any crazy operational concerns. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. But I'll link to the guide. I'll also link to all the stuff I'm about to talk about. So then I installed the Notes app in Nextcloud 13 because they have an app marketplace, I guess. I don't know. I don't think there's anything charged in there. So I installed the Notes app, which is just a basic markdown notes, and whatever you create in here, it saves it to a notes folder in Nextcloud, which then if you install the Nextcloud client, syncs that folder down to your desktop, and everything in there is just plain text markdown. And that's also the same directory that QO Notes looks at. So then I installed QO Notes, which is a Qt note-taking application that, again, uses Markdown and has full support for OwnCloud and Nextcloud. And it has a dark theme, which I happen to like. It previews Markdown. And Wimpy, I know that you are also a QO Notes user, because I think you mentioned that in a recent Ubuntu podcast.
Yep. Yeah, I've been using that since it's the snap that brought my awareness of the project around, and I've been using it ever since. I really love it.
Are you doing any kind of syncing, or are you just using it on the file system?
Well, kind of both. So the way I've set it up is to store its data in a prescribed directory, but that directory happens to be a directory that I sync. So I get syncing via other means. So it hasn't got the native Nextcloud integrated, but I was just able to place the data in a location where I already sync the stuff.
Yeah, and that works perfectly fine. I think off the top of my head, you don't really lose much other than if I click the share button in Q Own Notes, it actually generates a Nextcloud preview URL that renders the markdown to HTML, and then it hosts it on the Nextcloud server, which is kind of cool. And then you can give somebody a URL, and they can look at your notes.
Oh, wow.
Just by clicking
I didn't
a button
realize
in
it did
Q Own
that.
Notes. Yeah.
That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
It's nice. Uh-huh. So I was playing around with that. I prepped this whole show in Q Own Notes this week, and I loved it. And so the only other piece I wanted, because the other thing I was using Q Own Notes for is I'm taking notes for a bunch of stuff with our mixer, trying to keep track of some different things. And I wanted to be able to read them off from my phone while I'm actually standing over the mixer working on it. So I had to get those notes down to my phone. And that's where Cloud Notes, now there's plenty of solutions for Android, including, of course, for both platforms, just the Nextcloud app would be able to just browse the directory structure and view the files, right? But I wanted something that was specifically designed to take notes, supported Markdown, supported doing lists and things of that nature. And that's where Cloud Notes, which specifically positions itself as an own cloud client, but it works just fine with Nextcloud. It's $1.99 in the iOS App Store. And it's not perfect, but it does native connections to Nextcloud or OwnCloud, supports SSL, and it syncs all of the changes back and forth. It'll render the Markdown. It lets you share the notes. It's not a perfect note client, but it does put my notes now on my desktop, my laptop, my phone, and on the Nextcloud web, and it's marked down across all of them if I want to. And they all support, they all render it, they all do highlighting, syntax highlighting. And that happens to just be my preferred way to write notes. Anyways, I've done that since I was an IT contractor. It's pretty great. I'm just closing the loop on this topic. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but it really does feel like a solid, self-hosted, secure solutions. Everything's SSL. Q Own Notes has AES 256 encryption by default, but this is pretty cool. It has a plugin to use Keybase as a key to actually do GNU PG encryption of all of your notes signed to your Keybase profile.
That is slick.
Yeah. So there's a couple other really cool plugins that it supports in there, including like swapping out the Markdown engine and all kinds of stuff. Q Own Notes I really think it's an underrated application for the Linux desktop. It has so many uses, even if you don't want to ever use any kind of sync system. You just want to have files on your local hard disk or on a thumb drive or whatever. It would do great at that. So Q Own Notes.
Is there anything you miss? Is there anything you haven't been able to get quite right?
Yeah. But Google Photos, I think, could fill in the gap. But the thing that Evernote is great at, and kind of had kept me around, is when I travel, I could take pictures of business signs, and it OCRs text in the photos.
That is nice.
Yeah, and it's got support for like business cards and stuff like that. But I've got other apps on my phone now, like ScanBot, that can do that kind of stuff. So it's not as necessary. Like when I first had that functionality in Evernote, it was the only app that really did that. But now I could use ScanBot to take a photo of a sign and let Google Photos sync it up, and I could search it. I haven't actually done that yet because I'm still on the fence about going back to Google Photos, but it would be an alternative.
Right.
I'd love
you have
to know if
some
anybody else has.
now.
Yeah. I'd love to know if anybody else has any solutions. I don't know how to replace that functionality. I do miss that the most. I don't know if Tusk even supports that because it's a search thing, so it might. And the Evernote client is just really heavy, so I really kind of liked having a clean, fresh start too. And I'd love to know your solutions for how you're doing all of this, and what your thoughts are on notes. Like I'm trying to use this system for notes on like mechanical information about my RV, like everything from types of oil to part numbers. I'm trying to keep track of like how our mixer is configured. Like there's a wide range of stuff I'm trying to use a note system for. So I need to be able to categorize it a little bit. I need it to be across all the devices. I want it to be secure, and I'd rather it not be on a hosted service. I mean, I'm paying for the droplet, but I'd rather not be on a hosted service. I'd rather be on something I control. And now I'm making backups of that Nextcloud instance, plus I have it in plain text on all of my hard drives. Feels like a pretty solid solution, but I'd like to know what other people are doing. You can send in a contact note at linuxunplugged.com/contact. Does anybody have anything to add to the note stuff before I move on? I know I talk about it too much now, but I just wanted to close it. Files over. Okay. All right, well then, let's get to the laptop stuff. So first, let's talk about DigitalOcean. Go to do.co/unplugged to get a $100 credit at DigitalOcean. do.co/unplugged for 60 days. If you sign up with a new account, you'll get $100 in DigitalOcean service credits. Now, my favorite rig is 3 cents an hour, so that's going to get you quite a while on their super fast infrastructure. Everything is using SSDs, from the 3 cents an hour to the ones that have huge amounts of memory and CPU and disk. It's all SSD. When you attach block storage, it's SSDs. It's fast, plus 40 gigabit connections coming into the hypervisor. And then they've strategically placed data centers all around the world, so it has great connectivity to those regions. Plus, when you combine that with their predictable cost and billing, the different optimized compute types, including their new flexible droplets where you can mix and match resources, it's really hard to beat DigitalOcean. And then they have services built in, like cloud firewalls, monitoring and alerting, easy to manage DNS, and of course, that API. That API and that dashboard really bring it all together. They're easy to use, like the API is super clear, it's easy to read, and there's lots of open source applications already built that you can just start using today. You can just start taking advantage of them. Plus, they have fantastic uptime. My Nextcloud instance that I've been using this whole week, of course that's up on DigitalOcean. I put it in the San Francisco region. I am predominantly almost always on the west coast of the United States. And not always now, but almost always. And so that made sense for me. But I could move it around. I could have set up a separate one somewhere else. I like that functionality. And they have such great pricing. 3 cents an hour for my favorite one. It's crazy. So go take advantage of that $100 credit. Go build something great. Go play around with an entire stack of open source software or build something from the ground up. do.co/unplugged. Big thank you to DigitalOcean. That's do.co/unplugged. Going to have a straw poll linked in the show notes on the best Linux laptop for 2018. I'm going to drop it in the chat room too right now. I know not everything's on there, so here's the way this is going to work. I would like you to go vote on this, because whatever gets the least amount of votes gets eliminated off this list, and we'll put something else on there. But right now, these are the laptops that seem the most appealing to me, and I'll bust through them really quick, and then we'll talk about each one of them individually. Again, I acknowledge there's some missing, like all of the Entroware products, for example, are not on this list. But here is the top ones that I have so far. The ThinkPad X270, the Oryx Pro, newly updated, the XPS 13 Developer Edition, ThinkPad X1 Carbon, and the Librem 15 are sort of my top choices right now for a 2018 Linux laptop. And each one has pros and cons, and the ones I probably know the least about are the Lenovo ThinkPads. But from what I've heard about Noah's 270, which isn't even the current model anymore, it seems like a pretty compelling device. You're probably our resident ThinkPad expert, Popey. Do you know the difference between the 280 and the 270 and why Noah says the 270 is the one you want to get?
Not really. My most current laptop is a 250. Okay. I generally go for the one that's a year older just because it's cheaper and I can get it like secondhand. You get it half price than the one that's brand new.
Yeah, I know that the one big difference is a crazy proprietary Ethernet dongle port on the 280. They've dropped Ethernet.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a shame. That's been one of their selling points.
But the reason the 270 is high on my list is having watched the way Noah works with his, it has incredible battery life. It really is an all-day battery. And it's got a 3-cell battery integrated into it. They don't call it a battery, but it's got a 3-cell battery, a power station, I think is what they call it, integrated. And then he's got like a 9-cell battery hanging off the back. And the cool thing about that integrated battery is he can hot swap batteries. He can just rip the battery off and slap a new one in, and that 3-cell internal keeps it going for a while.
Yeah, and I do that with my T450. It's a fantastic feature. I have 3 spare batteries for my T450, so if I want to, I can go all day and beyond and just swap out while I'm running, and it just keeps on running on the internal while you swap it out. It's great.
Like, I don't need that all the time, but when I need it, I super need it. So, on this trip to Texas, I am the whole way down there. We are running off of batteries, and when we drive, we charge the batteries, and when we park, we drain the batteries, and it's going to be 100 degrees in some areas, so the fridge will be sucking batteries down like crazy. So if my laptop can avoid being plugged in, because the double damage with my laptop is it's converting DC to AC back to DC. It's just this brutal process where if I can avoid doing that when I'm running off of batteries and I can just go off of the laptop battery, that would be very, very beneficial. And that kind of kicked this whole thing off is Noah gets like 12, 14 hours. What kind of battery life do you get, Popey?
Probably not as much as that, but then I'm doing quite brutal things, lots of compiling, lots of VMs,
Yeah.
Electron apps, all the kind of things that you probably don't want to run if you want battery life.
Now, Wes, you have been shopping for a laptop. You've got like the original Sputnik Developer Edition, and you were just looking at the X1 Carbon, which is the second ThinkPad on this list.
Yeah, it is really handsome. I just happened to be in a store the other day, and there was the XPS 13 right next to an X1 Carbon, and
Oh, really?
boy, they're both handsome. I love how light the XPS is. It's just light and thin and feels super minimal. The Carbon though does have a certain, that still has that ThinkPad style feel. It feels a little more rugged. It feels sort of like you could really throw it in a bag and just not worry about it.
Yeah, the XPS is a little delicate. Now, I have like the 5th generation. I'm actually talking to you through my old XPS right now. And that's the laptop I have right now. And I broke it, and so like the side, like it squishes when I pick it up. It's starting to fall apart a little bit on me. So over like the 3 years I've had it, it's maybe not held up quite as well as I wanted, but it's still fully functional, and I'm still using it as a full-fledged production machine. So it's just kind of, it's just maybe the build quality could have been a little bit better, and I would bet you it has improved since then. When I was at Scale, I saw quite a bit of the X1 Carbon floating around. Seemed to be a popular one. Seemed like it was fine running Linux. You do lose that Ethernet port again, though, which that's a bit of a deal breaker for me. I really want to.
Really?
What's most important to you, the portability of the device or the sort of size and comfort of the screen? Do you mind about how heavy it is?
Not a lot. The screen is probably slightly more important, and a good keyboard is pretty important. I don't want it much bigger than the XPS 13, so somewhere around 13 inches, I think, is kind of the.
Okay.
It's too big.
So you're not going to be
14.
video editing on this thing then?
No, I don't plan to. No, it's more for web, email, and audio.
Right. Okay.
You have something in mind?
Well, I was just wanting to clarify. There's no point in me going into it if you know what your use case is. But as an owner of 2 XPS 13s and having also reviewed their current model, they're really solid devices.
Yeah. I am predisposed to be inclined to go with the XPS 13 because it's got a really solid accessory market too, like docks and USB-C hubs and things like that are really reliable, and that's attractive to it.
And another advantage is that it doesn't matter what Linux you put on it, you'll be able to update the firmware via Linux with the XPS 13.
That is really nice.
The new Hades Canyon NUC also has its firmware in LVFS, I discovered at the weekend.
Oh, really? Little side tip.
Yeah.
How is the Hades
That is
Canyon
great.
NUC going?
That is going to be many weeks of hard work to get Linux working well on it.
Oh.
is the TLDR there? Yeah, it's all in flight at the moment. So the GPU is not supported in current kernels. Is scheduled for inclusion in 4.18. So it's building kernels from Git with DRM next branches and stuff.
I see. Yeah, I think the XPS 13 is my strongest lead right now. The Lenovo only pulls ahead because of that power station feature where I could swap batteries, and the 270 has Ethernet, which the XPS does not. And it has USB-C charging. But if you raised a good question, like the screen. Well, what if I wanted to go with a slightly larger screen? Because if it's going to be my main system for production while I'm on the road, then the Librem 15 or the Oryx Pro, I think, become pretty solid contenders. I have the Librem 15 and the like 1 rev behind that they sent to me, and I think it's a really good system. I'm not a huge fan of the screen, but other than that, I think it's a great system with a good keyboard. And then System 76 just updated the Oryx Pro, and it looks pretty nice. It's got 8th gen i7 CPUs, up to 32 gigs of RAM, and it's a lot thinner. It's way thinner with a GTX 10 in it. The only complaint I have with it is the battery, I think, is like around somewhere in the 50-watt range. And that's not so bad on a XPS 13, but on an Oryx Pro, slightly larger, when I'm trying to optimize for battery life, that's sort of not the right use case for me. If I could be plugged in most of the time, I think it would actually be a good system for me. But the battery life is a killer, and I can't seem to find one that beats that ThinkPad for battery. So this is where I kind of punt to the audience a little bit. I'd like to know what they think. linuxunplugged.com/contact. And we also have that poll in the show notes. I wonder if anybody's voting. Because what I was thinking is obviously this is not an inclusive poll. So if we can pull a couple of these off the list right now, the ThinkPad X270 and the Librem 15 are trailing behind the most. And the XPS 13 is pulling ahead with just the live voting that we have with the live audience. So I'll link that in the show notes. I'd like to have the rest of the download audience vote on that a bit, or at least those of you that are willing, just so we can kind of get a sense of which laptop we should remove from that list, and then let us know on the contact page which laptop we should add. Wes and I are not necessarily either one of us buying a laptop today, but Wes, you've got to be getting close, right?
Yeah, I think it now is the summer. I've got some traveling coming up, and then after that, I think I will. It will really be time.
Striking distance for you. Yeah, and that'll be nice. So that way when you launch Slack, your little fan doesn't have to spin up every time.
Yeah,
That'd be
exactly.
good.
I can run 2 Electron apps. Oh my!
Yeah, I know this Chrome app that we're using to talk right now really spins my CPUs up pretty bad on this XPS 13. That's what's pegging it. Not all the other stuff I'm doing, but that Chrome app. Yeah, so check out that poll, go vote, and let us know what you think. Mumble Room, any other thoughts on laptops or hardware before we wrap this sucker up? The Galago Pro gets a mention. Yeah, somebody in the chat room saying mention the Galago Pro. Yeah. I don't think, again, that comes back to the battery and the fan stuff with the Galago Pro are not going to make it optimal for my use case. The Dell XPS 15 is getting a mention. The Latitude E6440. Okay. Those are good mentions from the chat room, too. Ones with 2 9-cell batteries? Dang, that is great. Yeah.
I'm kind of curious if there's any sleeper hits that we've just been missing that turn out to be a really reliable Linux laptop that no one ever heard of because it's an Acer or something.
Speaking of Jonathan Riddle, he did a pretty hard sell for the Pine Book, and it kind of made me really interested. You can only get them in limited quantities because they don't build them until there's enough of an order. But the Pine Book sounded pretty cool, like $100 somewhere around there for a ARM laptop that's actually decent performance. I got to be honest, that piqued my interest. All right, well, go check out more Popey and Wimpy over at the Excellent Ubuntu podcast, which is coming right along and always a great listen. Just caught the latest episode the other day and thought it was quite enjoyable. Good work, gentlemen, as always on the podcast. I recommend people go check it out.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Wes and I do a full breakdown of the big bad new version, the new variant of what was it? The store bypass variant. Of course, I'm totally blanking out now because I didn't plan to mention this.
Spectre V4.
Yeah, Spectre V4. We do a full breakdown on this week's episode of TechSnap. Wes did an excellent job of digging through some of the documentation that Red Hat released, which was really good stuff. And we have a digest of all of that and more things you need to know in this week's episode of TechSnap. So check that out at techsnap.systems. Now, this show continues on as we go down the road. I don't know exactly how or when, so it might be best to subscribe.
But it will.
But it will. It will. linuxunplugged.com/subscribe. Just get it every single week whenever it does come out. And we will attempt to stream it live. You can find that at jblab.tv. And you can find the live times at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. Links to everything we talked about at linuxunplugged.com/250. How's about that for a whole bunch of Earls? How about one more for the Texas shirt? teespring.com/jbtexas. Go get some swag. And we'll see you next week. Oh, Adidas are getting home. Adia has arrived home just as we finished.
Perfect.
Jibby titles. Jibby titles. All right, we'll see what we get. It's nice to have JBot back. See if it'll load, though. Jibby titles.
Yeah, no kidding.
How did it feel doing it from home, Wes?
Not too bad. A little bit different. I miss your smiling face, of course. But,
you're
hey,
such
workable.
a gentleman. You're such a gentleman. No, I mean, it was kind of nice to be able to take a breather between TechSnap and Love. That was kind of fun.
Was really nice, yeah.
Levi enjoyed the sunshine, so that was good.
Oh,
My air conditioning kicked on midway through the show because it started to get really, really hot in here. Whew. How come JB Titles isn't loading, Wes?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. It's no good. It's no good. How are we ever going to title it? Oh, man. We also didn't title TechSnap. This is a double title jam up.
What's happening with us?
Oh, man. Mumble Room, thanks, guys. You guys were great, as always. Appreciate you. Papa bless. Well, Wes, why don't we end... What is it?
Sorry, I was just saying well done recovering after failure.
All right, Wes, why don't we hit stop on the old record there? You ready? I think he went away to go catch the dog. Hello, darling.
Hello.
Welcome home. Did you bring home beer?
I brought home beer for me and cider for you.
Thank you. Cider for me and beer for her. I was just thinking, I can't believe we did the show and I don't have any booze in the show. I don't have to drive anywhere. I'm at home. I could have had a brewski. So, appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no kidding. Beer. Amazing.
All right, Wes, I think we can kill recording now. Are you ready to kill?
Let's see here.
Yeah? Arm your kill
Yes, I
switch,
am.
Wes. All right.
It's
Make it
armed.
so. Kill.
And we're out.
All right. So, good job podcasting, Wes. I'm
Woo,
impressed.
good job,
I
you.
think, for our first time ever doing either one of these shows, both of us remote, I think it was pretty good. So behind the scenes, before we went live, Wes and I just did, obviously we just did TechSnap, which we've never done apart before. It was the first time ever.
A little sensitive,
weird.
little tender at times, but we did it.
Hey, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot. You still have to guess what I was talking about earlier before the show start. Before the dress rehearsal.
Wasn't it something crazy that we thought was insane? I don't remember what it was, though. But, I mean, it was pretty out there, if I recall.
Yeah, it's pretty significant. It hasn't been
Remind
rebooted
me-
in 20 years.
Okay, something that hasn't been... Okay, but you got to give me more of a reminder. Because are you talking something like a TV show, or are you talking...
Yes, a TV show.
Okay. A TV show... Doctor Who?
No.
That's been rebooted.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure what his definition of reboot was.
It's American?
Yeah.
It's American?
Well, 60 Minutes has been going for 50 years.
It's nothing serious. It's a kid show. Sort of kid show.
You talking about The Simpsons?
Simpsons is
been
not a
like
kid
after Planet.
show.
Well, but it's been going for like 25 years. I mean, there's it's not that weird for a show to be going for that long.
It's a
Look
live
at,
action kid show.
Okay, that narrows the range down. A live action kid show.
I'll narrow it even further.
I know.
Live action kids game
What is
show.
it? Oh,
Oh, I was going to say, before he said game show, I was going to say the Cosby Show.
It's Runabout.
the Cosby
Nope.
Show. Too soon, Popey.
Wow,
soon,
okay.
Okay, so Wes, we need a flack, and then from your side,
Yeah.
and then we need to title this thing. I did another pass at bypass for the TechSnap title. It's really bad, but that's all I could come up with.
Okay. We'll take
Okay,
a
I'm
look
about
at
to
that,
post it in IRC
What now?
in 3, 2, 1.
She's building the suspense over there. What is it? What is it? Double
Never
date?
heard of it.
Never. Yeah, never heard of it. Inspector Gadget sounds cool though.
Oh my gosh. It
Oh,
doesn't go
Double
up to
Dare.
Doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie.
Have you guys never heard of Double Dare?
The only reason I watched Inspector Gadget recently is because, like every so often, I'll say "Go Go Gadget legs," and my daughter will say, "Why do you keep saying Go Go Gadget
Yeah.
legs and Go Go
I had the
Gadget
same-
arms?" And I say, you have to watch Inspector Gadget," and she was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
So I looked it up and found it on YouTube. Watched an episode, and she just looked at me afterwards. She was just like, "Are you serious?" It's like,
You know they have a
this is what I wanna watch.
rebooted Netflix original version. I think it's Netflix original on Netflix.
No, really?
Yeah, I think so.
And then there's the live action movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I do that same thing. I had that same exact conversation with my kids, and so we looked up the version on Netflix, and they didn't seem to mind it. So is the JB titles thing just? So I think JBot has eaten all its RAM again, is what happened. So we can't mine this for juicy titles. Ugh. You know what? That thing's really got to get shot in the head.
Yeah, I need to finish moving that.
Or I
So
guess
you
we put
never
it on
heard of Double Dare?
I think I've heard of it. I think we need to put it on a system with like a lot more RAM. Is what we need to do, huh, Wes? It's like way more RAM.
And some of
It- it was- I think it was-
monitoring.
It was
like on
the
a
big.
512 rig.
It was the big messy show with a lot of slime and all that.
Yeah, okay.
The pre-Slime Time Live. It was hosted by Mark Summers. The original version was hosted by Mark Summers.
Mark Summers. Oh my God. Okay.
And he's the mayor of the show now. Check the preview out in the link.
The mayor of the show.
You care a lot more about this than anyone else.
Can I be mayor of this show? Is that how that works?
What do we call
you
a
are already the mayor, surely.
Boom.
Good. So, all right. As the mayor, your first responsibility is to title it.
No, terrible. I would like to delegate as responsible
damn it.
mayor.
I'm gonna go. Bye.
Yeah. Damn it. So I think best Linux laptop is too cheap.
Yeah.
But something maybe in that vein. I don't know.
Or something about notes. I feel like there was almost equal time spent on those two things.
Yeah. Yeah. The best notes and the best hardware. Yeah, it's the best solution possible. Something, because I also talked about how Linux was the best solution for what we wanted to do, not just because it's not Mac, but because it's actually just really good.
Yeah, that's true.
So there is some best of. There's a lot of that. So what can we draw from that?
Only
Stupid
the
J-bot?
best.
Oh, so he's also so Mark Summers is going to be taking the executive producer role.
Oh my God, dude!
good.
Give it up! Fucking hell!
Jesus
Time to move on.
Oh my God. Oh.
It's a total nerd thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
guess
guess Mark Summers also did that Food Network show for a while.
Unwrapped.
Yeah, Unwrapped. Yeah, that's what it was. Only the best. Only the best. I do like only the best. I think that might be the way to go. I think that's our time.
Although it was funny because he was a germaphobe when he was hosting Double Dare.
Really?
Yes.
That wouldn't work too well.
But he got used to it. He actually got over it, and plus he has a history of Nickelodeon shows, doing sliming and all that, even beyond Double Dare.
All right. Stand by one, Jack.
How about notebooks and notebooks? The best notebooks and notebooks.
That's not bad. It's very
notebooks and even more notebooks.
It sounds like an Ubuntu podcast title: Notebooks and Notebooks.
Notes.
Yeah.
We have the best titles.
You do. Yep. I'd say they are so good you could say they're pragmatically good. So, Wes, are you flacking out over there? And
yes, I am. Do you want it in the same place?
So there is above the TextNet folder. There's a LUP folder. I didn't make a sub LUP folder in there, but you could probably just put in the root of that folder and just name it like LUP-250-Wes or something. Okay, so I think we should probably get out of here soon because Noah's got to do a thing. I haven't seen him stop by.
There's like a whole other show thing.
Yeah, but we should probably skedaddle so that way we can make room on the internets for, that Noah Chalaya. He needs space. He needs breathing room. You gotta clear out.
Didn't he say he was doing a certain trip, like in order to help a client or like do something that might be something different?
I don't know. Maybe. So are you saying there's not a show today?
I'm not saying that, but I'm just curious.
It's very cryptic, JJ. It's very cryptic. I don't know. I do not know the answer to your query. I don't see him, so it's possible. I guess we'll just have to tune in, and if he's live in about 8 minutes, then we'll know if there's a show or not. And if he's not, then there's no show. I don't think I've heard from him. Oh, yeah, I did talk to him early this morning, but I haven't heard from him for the rest of the day. All right, gentlemen. Well, I appreciate you, and I should probably get out of here, which means I got to turn down the stream and all that kind of stuff. So thanks, everybody, for coming. It was fun to hang out with you while I did this thing from the RV. And Wes, I think we're pretty good.
Success.
I'm sure we'll get notes back from Joe.